our Savior, for the privilege of prayer. We thank you for this Memorial Day weekend. We just remember those who have served and lost and missing, and the families. We rejoice in their sacrifice for our freedom. We thank you for this gathering in this place of government, that we do the business of kings in this place, the King of the Lord, Jesus, who watches over us. We ask that everything that's said and done would bring honor to you, and we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. And we have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Red Thompson. Okay, let's call the roll, please.
Mr. Sharp? Mr. Thompson? Mr. Lorino? Mr. Toledano? Mr. Tanner? Mr. Groby? Mr. Dean?
Here.
Mr. Canulette? Mr. Belisario? Here. Ms. O'Brien? Here. Mr. Stefanczyk? Here. Mr. Bender? Here. Ms. Blanchard? Mr. Smith? You have a quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum. The next portion of our agenda begins with presentations. So our first presentation, we have about 5 or 6. So our first presentation is a presentation of proclamation of St. Tammany Parish Government Employee of the Month. Our Employee of the Month is not here today, so Ms. Brister has asked if she could go speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our Employee of the Month is, as you mentioned, I believe she had a death in her family, so we will recognize her next month if that's all right with you. But in her stead, if it's all right with the chairman and the council, I would like to recognize someone else, and she's here with me. This is a room full of people who have committed themselves in one way or another to serving this community as journalists, council representatives, public servants, and community leaders. Those of us who have made that commitment to this community know the power of positive intentions, hard work, and selfless service. And there are none that know that more than Kelly Rabelais. Even in the face of great difficulty, malicious and false attacks from people who use hateful words to try and divide us while they hide behind social media and internet message boards, Kelly has stood tall. Above all of that, choosing to put St. Tammany first for all of us. For that reason, the Bureau of Governmental Research named Kelly as this year's recipient of the Excellence in Government Merit Award. I couldn't be happier that she received the recognition that she so greatly, greatly deserves. So thank you, Kelly, for everything you do.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, a couple of council members want to say something. Mr. Mike?
Mr. Chairman and Madam President, I just want to say a couple of things. First of all, as you know, Madam President, there's a lot of people that sit out here in the front and also up here with us that keep this operation going. And any one of those employees that you have assembled and have as a team could have been there and received that award. But Kelly received that award, and I was there, and I just want to say, Kelly, that I was very proud of you, very proud of St. Tammany Parish. And my late grandfather told me a long time ago, he said, Mike, he says, you never get in the slop with pigs because you get dirty. And unfortunately, I have been reading things on the internet and Facebook that are totally not called for. They are malicious, they are self-serving, and they actually bring disrespect to CCST, because I know not all members of Concerned Citizens feel that way. And the reason why I know that is because I received some emails from members of Concerned Citizens, and they say, Mr. Lorino, you know why we at odds? Because we're very passionate about St. Tammany Parish, and you are also. But there's a way to be passionate, and there's a way to try to do good for St. Tammany Parish. And I just hope those concerned citizens that have respect and a little bit of pride would stand up and say enough is enough, because this councilman has had enough. I've been keeping my mouth shut for a long time, and I'm not used to that. That's not my trait. So I just want to let everybody know that I respect everybody's opinion, but you should do it in a more civil and civilized manner. This is not a third world country that we're living in. This is the greatest parish in the state of Louisiana. So once again, Kelly, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate everything you do for me and District 4 and for St. Tammany Parish. So thank you, ma'am.
Okay, very well said. Okay, the next presentation is to Mayor Peter Gitz, recognizing his retirement. Is the mayor here?
Oh,
'Cause I
yes,
didn't-
he is. Thank you.
There he is. Mayor Gitz was the mayor for 8 of my first years on the parish council. It is truly impressive what this guy has done over the years. I don't think he's ever had a fundraiser. I don't think he's ever bought a sign to run for office. I truly, that guy is one heck. That is what St. Tammany is about, and that is why people want to come over here. Just a truly impressive man.
Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Go
I
ahead.
could not
I
agree.
gave my presentation
There-
first.
You did yours first. I could not agree with you more. So we are so happy that you were able to come tonight to be with us on a night that we want to pay tribute to what you've done over the years. So if you will allow me, I'll read just a little bit, okay? So I do want to take just a moment to recognize Mayor Peter Gitz for his service to not only Madisonville, but all of St. Tammany Parish. He has served as mayor of Madisonville for over 40 years and has seen many changes in our community, but his dedication and commitment has never wavered. Mayor Gitz has been an avid supporter of the Maritime Museum, which he helped open in 2001, as well as the Wooden Boat Festival, which began in late 1980s. A room in the newly constructed Madisonville Library will soon bear his name as a testament to the devotion Mayor Gitz has shown to aspects of his beloved community. I think I can safely speak for all here tonight when I say we wish you the best in your retirement and hope you know how much we appreciate the work that you've done and the legacy that you leave behind. Thank you for everything you've done, Mayor Gitz. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. President. I'm so proud of her. She's a wonderful person. Everything I asked of her, she's done. And this little lady sitting right here, too. Been doing her a long time. She helped establish the Maritime Museum, and now she's up here with y'all, and she's going to do a good job, too. So Pat knows that. And all the friends I have here, I look, see Red, I see Racket, I see every one of them here that I know and work with a whole bunch of people. And I'm really proud to be a part of St. Tammany Parish, even though I was born here. I'm 4 generations here. I love the parish. I love Madisonville, especially. The things that the parish is going through now that I can see, because we have the same problem in Madisonville, is the fast growth. I know y'all got a big job ahead of you to keep up with it, and I don't know how you can do it because they moved here so fast because they love St. Tammany Parish and they want to live here. And I'm proud of all the parish council, everybody involved with the parish. So thank you again. Thanks for everything that y'all done for Madisonville and done for myself. Thank you very much.
It's an impressive guy. Okay, the third presentation. Our third presentation is a pretty touching one. It's acknowledging the work done by Ms. Cheryl Klein, who recently passed away. I'd like to be down there with y'all.
Yes, as Councilman Dean mentioned, we lost a quiet hero recently, and we felt it was very important to go ahead and acknowledge and recognize all that she has done for St. Tammany Parish and everyone in the North Shore region in general, too. So Councilman Belisario and I will tag team this because both of us were friends of hers. She was a constituent and a friend of mine, and she and Councilman Belisario worked together on the Commission on Families for many, many years. So we'll turn now to Councilman Gene Belisario.
Thank you, Maureen. This is a certificate of tribute to Cheryl Klein. I served with this lady for about 7 years, and the one thing she had a powerful smile, and it's part of this presentation, and I just thought so much of her. I got with Maureen, I said, we need to do something, so here it is. To Cheryl Klein. Our North Shore community last month lost a quiet hero who made so many of our lives better. We would like to take this opportunity to say a few words about this hero, Cheryl Klein, and her work and her achievements which have positively affected us all. Cheryl was with the Louisiana Public Health Institute since 2004 and has made countless contributions to this organization, which has impacted all of us in so many ways. She served as the Tobacco-Free Living Regional Manager for Region 9 North Shore, Florida Parishes, Louisiana campaign for tobacco-free living. Prior to her employment with TFL, she worked as a regional prevention coordinator for the Office of Addictive Disorders and as an education coordinator for Pride of St. Tammany. Cheryl was most proud of the passage of the Smoke-Free Hammond Ordinance, working with colleges and hospitals like Lakeview Regional, Hood Memorial, and the Louisiana Heart Hospital, and many others to adopt the tobacco-free policies and the ever-evolving tasks of the Healthy Communities Coalition. Cheryl was the Region 9 Louisiana Healthy Coalition initial founder and chairman. Cheryl Klein, who had lived on the South Shore prior to moving to Mandeville, Louisiana, had a disarming smile, undaunted energy and spirit, passion, and leadership abilities which impacted many organizations in so many ways. Cheryl Klein was an active individual. She was involved with various other community services such as Florida Parish's Human Service Authority, Alliance for Good Government, St. Tammany Parish Chapter, St. Tammany Commission on Families, St. Tammany West Habitat for Humanity, Leadership St. Tammany Alumni Foundation, Professional Women of St. Tammany, the Board of the North Shore Jewish Congregation, Education Coordinator for Pride of St. Tammany, Slidell Memorial Hospital Women's Health Alliance, Tangipahoa Social Services Coalition, Livingston Parish Human Services Coalition, Washington Parish Coalition on Human Services, Tangipahoa Reshaping Attitude for Community Change Coalition, the Hammond, St. Tammany, and Tangipahoa Chambers of Commerce member. Turn it over to Maureen.
Community leaders reflected on Cheryl's leadership and work with the following statements. Cheryl was a dear friend and definitely a champion for the Region 9 Healthy Community Coalition. Her undaunting energy, loving and giving spirit, passion and leadership impacted our region in a significant way. She was the definition of a giver. Her legacy will live on through the countless lives she touched and the instrumental role she played in creating systematic changes impacting our region's culture of health, thus saving lives and improving our quality of life. She definitely left a footprint in our community and beyond. She lived her dash well. We will greatly miss our cherished chairman, leader, and friend. And this is from St. Tammany Professional Women and Healthy Community Coalition co-chair, Taffy Morrison. Next, Cheryl helped to change our community for the better by educating people on the dangers of tobacco use, especially the effects of secondhand smoke. Without her, our laws enforcing the ban on indoor tobacco use would have taken much longer to pass. Because of her, we are a healthier community, besides just being our friend. And that's from Tammy Swindle of CAGNO, and she's the executive director. Cheryl had a passion for her work that shined through every day. She believed in putting a focus on the youth in our community when it came to prevention education. Region 9 is a healthier community because of the great strides she made. She touched so many people, and her work and positive impact will always live on. And that's from Charity Gay, Early Detection and Education Specialist from Region 9, the Regional Cancer Control Officer at Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. Cheryl was passionate about her work and definitely had a leadership champion presence in our community. She has touched the lives of countless individuals and has been an inspiration to so many to become involved in their community. Her legacy will live on. Cheryl Klein made a difference. She will always have a presence in our hearts and in our memory. Please continue to lift her family in your prayers or thoughts during this very difficult time. And on behalf of everybody in St. Tammany Parish government, we'd like to present this to her family. And we'd like to offer an opportunity for family or friends to say a few words. Thank you so much for sharing Cheryl with us. I can't believe I'm never going to hear, "How you doing, Mo?" again. She was just precious.
Let me just simply say, because I'm flooded with emotion, I know, and you said that she had quite a smile, and she did, and I know that she's smiling down now. And again, this is very, very special. Thank you.
I do have to add my voice. I first, and we all have stories about Cheryl, but I met her the first time when she came to point her finger and says, "You have to help me with the smokeless area around where you work every day." So I remember it so well, and she was so right. She was a quiet hero, but more powerful than many, many I know. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for honoring Cheryl. I actually served as her supervisor. She said, "You're my boss?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "You're young enough to be my daughter." I said, "That's okay. We're going to work well together, and I believe in teamwork, and we were a great team." And she's definitely going to be missed from our team. She's been missed since about February. But we're continuing our work, and hopefully some of you would like to get on board with some smoke-free efforts to keep the momentum going on behalf of Cheryl. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Our next presentation by Ms. Chris Butler regarding the deaths of our young students. Mr. Lorino? Hit your microphone. Hit your microphone.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Butler contacted me very shortly after the tragic deaths of two of our students in Mandeville High, and she's very, very passionate about this, and she wanted to address the council and on a very short, her feelings on this, but more importantly, she wants to get involved in what we can do to help our children. So, Ms. Butler, would you please take your time, ma'am, and go right ahead. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you for hearing me. I appreciate it. Definitely switching gears here. Hello, my name is Chris Butler, and I live in Mandeville. I appreciate being given the opportunity to address the Parish Council this evening. I'm here in hopes of partnering with St. Tammany Parish Council to increase awareness of the services available for the prevalent issue of suicide prevention and mental illness in our community, as well as the 211 hotline. There is so much I'd like to share, however, I realize my time this evening is limited. I'm confident that you will agree to continue this topic in the near future, as there will be several layers to uncover in working together in this extremely important venture. As you are aware, tragically, Mandeville High lost 2 students to suicide within 2 days just before ending this school year. Brendan Manley, just 17 years old, took his own life on Monday, April 18th. Just 2 days later, Nathaniel Hassan, just 18 for 7 short days, followed through with his words he posted on social media saying, "Goodbye, I'm killing myself." Just today, within the past 13 hours, most of us started our day by brushing our teeth, eating breakfast, completing our workday, and here we are at this meeting this evening. Imagine during our day's short time span, a precious life was lost to suicide here in Louisiana. On average, another life will also be lost to suicide before we start our day again tomorrow. We lose an average of 679 people per year to suicide alone in our state. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in our country, stealing approximately 42,000 people a year, or just over 100 a day, or 1 every 13 minutes. In Louisiana alone, for our children ages just 10 to 14, suicide is the 4th leading cause of death. The 4th. That was shocking to me. Ages 15 to 34, suicide is the 3rd leading cause. Ages 35 to 54, suicide is the 4th leading cause of death. These numbers are overwhelming. As you are aware, St. Tammany has an alarming rate of suicides over the past few years. Unfortunately, I witnessed my own husband's suicide about 2 a.m. on Saturday, September 27, 2014, and I'm not going to do that. He was one of the 47 St. Tammany residents who chose to end their lives that year. Suicide can be the result of the unbearable event in someone's life or someone suffering with ongoing mental illness. Mandeville, St. Tammany Parish, or the North Shore, has a reputation for being too good or above admitting or acknowledging that mental health could be present in our higher class community. As we know, this couldn't be further from the truth. This is another objective I hope to implement. The Mandeville High student suicides really struck home with me. I was humbled to see the community coming together in support of these young men and women who left behind. Residents were speaking out on social media calling for suicide prevention and avenues for those troubled to turn to in their desperate time of need. I participated in many of those conversations. Based upon my strong words, many promoted me to speak out and do something, resulting in you, the council, receiving my email that Saturday, April 23rd. Within 1 hour, I had 3 responses and a phone call from Mike. Thank you. I was shocked that responses came so soon. On a beautiful Saturday afternoon, Mike was finishing mowing his lawn. I realized at that moment that we are fortunate to have a council that is caring and understanding and the urgency and importance of addressing this issue within our community. 211. Prior to Brendan and Nathaniel's suicides, I had never heard of 211. Since then, I have asked several in our community if they have heard of it, including my own 2 sons who attended Mandeville High School. Only one said they have heard of 211, and that was from the high school, but they didn't remember what it was or how to use it. I had a friend in Algiers also asking around, and she said no one she's spoken to has heard of it, and she hadn't either. 211 is a national hotline. It is available in St. Tammany Parish, as you are aware. I commend you for implementing the hotline. I am aware that they do receive calls within our community from those in crisis. However, in my inquiries, the lack of knowledge is present. I would like to assist the council in spreading the word of the wonderful hotline to see the potential the hotline is capable of. Mandeville High School recently handed out cards with the 211 hotline information. However, this was only after these 2 suicides. I would also like to add that the principal, Mr. Bundy, brought the school together only after the 2nd suicide. A sophomore shared with me her unrest on this, stating that the school community came together after Brandon's suicide to show support and assistance to those distraught. Could this possibly have saved Nathaniel's life had they done it after his? Excellent point, but yet we'll never know that answer. She was also concerned that the principal had presented drug awareness and prevention in the school about 3 to 4 times that year, yet suicide and mental illness awareness and prevention was presented just once, and again noting after the suicides. Could this awareness possibly have saved these boys' lives? We will never know. My main objective this evening, as stated in my initial email, was to encourage to continue the efforts in the battle against mental illness and suicide and request to be a part of those efforts. I also wanted you to be aware of the feedback within the community on the 211 hotline. Although it's an excellent tool, the community in general is not aware of it. I request this council to discuss this further and ask what suggestions or next step that you would be willing to do to get the word out. Billboards possibly, public service announcements on radio and TV, social media. I feel it's time to speak out loud and clear against suicide and mental illness so our community knows that it is okay to talk about it rather than hide it in shame. If you have a broken leg, you go to the doctor. If you have cancer, you reach out for treatment. If your brain is in need of medical attention, it deserves to be treated just like the rest of our body. Our brain was the thing that makes us who we are, and a pretty important part, I would say. So it should be taken care of. I would like to be a part of this movement as well and recruit for more volunteers. I thank you for allowing me to take part and speak to you this evening. I look forward to being on the agenda in July to present more information and uncover more of the layers. And just like to conclude really quick by presenting to you Anna Bryan, officially now a junior at Mandeville High School. The same day that I emailed you, the Saturday following these tragic suicides, she started a GoFundMe page with all the donations to be split between Brendan and Nathaniel's families, even though she did not know either of the boys personally. I did not know her until this venture as well. Within minutes, donations and words of support came pouring out in our community. Despite her numerous efforts to find a way to get the funds to the family, she's been unable to do so to date. She's here to see if anyone possibly has any information for her to get these funds to the families. Last night, before we contacted each other, she had just emailed all those who contributed and offered money back to them or to donate their portion to a charity since she has been unable to get the funds to the families. I commend you, Anna. Any assistance for her would be greatly appreciated. I thank you all very much for your time and teamwork in this battle. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Butler.
Mr. Chairman? Chris?
I'm trying to run away. I'm
That's
nervous.
okay. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you.
And as you know, Madam President has been working on that, and that is one of her main issues, and we're very proud of that here in St. Tammany.
Absolutely.
And I will make sure we have some meetings. The coroner is always involved in it, so I will make sure you have that, and if you can get there, we'd love to have you join us.
Sounds
And
great.
I just want to say thank you, and thank you for your daughter to do that and raise the money. And if you need, I can get that information for you. if you want.
We appreciate that very
And I'll
much.
touch base with you. And once again, thank you for the time.
Thank
and
you.
Appreciate it. Thank you,
I
ma'am.
appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Mr. Bender?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd also like to thank the lady and the young lady also. Very impressive for a young person to act in a positive manner. I just wanted to say this, since we're on TV. I'm not going to pontificate, Mr. Chairman, okay? But, you know, one thing that I think of and I thought about when I saw these two horrible events with these young Mandeville High people is, and we all can do something, just individually besides organizations. You know, we see people on crutches and we'll open the door for them. as they walk into a facility, because it's visual. We see it, you know? But we don't know what people are going through up here. We don't know their sorrows. We don't know their pain up here, whether it's job loss, a family member lost, whatever they may be going through. But I think as we all learn about this, and suicide's up 24% in the whole country since 1999, we need to be aware, I think, each individually, if we see someone, you know, who needs a pat on the back, let's give it to them. If we see someone who needs to be told, you did a good job, that might be, you know, the one thing, because I'm not talking about anybody in the audience or us or anybody watching on TV, but we are becoming more of a me society over time, because life gets busy and we don't think about others as often as we used to in the time I was growing up and so forth. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to stop there, but I think let's all be on the lookout for someone who might be in pain above the neck. Thank you.
Okay. Very well said, Mr. Bender. And it's a pretty timely presentation too, because right after this we have, and as I look out in the audience, we got Dr. Preston, the coroner here, who's made suicide prevention a pretty huge part of his stay as coroner. And you know, then we've got Ms. Klein, who did a huge amount for children. I know that because I saw it. It's a difficult time for kids. It's much more difficult for kids to be growing up these days than it was even 20 years ago or 15 years ago, because they're just pulled in so many different ways. So anyway, it's very timely now that on presentation number 5 we have Ms. Martha Benson, who will speak from NAMI, National Alliance for Mentally Ill, regarding resources available to our communities. Mr. Groby.
Thank you, Chair. A little over a month ago, we had an excellent presentation at the Mandeville Community Center, and that's where I met Mr. Dave Mancino. And then having a long, drawn-out conversation with him, even I was not aware of all the things that are available to the citizens who need help by NAMI. And the best way to say that is I wanted to bring someone in from NAMI on live TV so that the whole parish could hear all the wonderful things NAMI presents. Ms. Martha, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, council members and Parish President Brister. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you, and I would specifically like to thank Councilman Groby for the invitation to do so. And thank you to the entire council and to the parish of St. Tammany for having this conversation and for your thoughts on the topic. It's much appreciated. As a parent who has a loved one with mental illness, it means more to me than you might even know. So as Councilman Groby mentioned, my name is Martha Benson. I'm the program coordinator for NAMI St. Tammany, that is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We provide education and support programs, resources, and advocacy services for people living with mental illness, for their family members, and for the community. For many years now, we've provided programs and services specifically for the person with the mental illness and for their families. We have educational classes and presentations. We have support groups almost every week. We have representatives that work with the 22nd Judicial District Court for the Behavioral Health Court program. And since 2012, NAMI has overseen and run the NAMI residential community that serves individuals who are chronically mentally ill, who either have a history of homelessness or who are at great risk for homelessness because of their mental illness. We appreciate the support of the parish to provide these services directly where the need lies. Since 2014, our focus has been to increase our outreach on a community level. One example is the law enforcement trainings that we've conducted for both city police agencies as well as the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office. We are looking forward to working with Sheriff-elect Randy Smith, who actually has some really great ideas on preparing his officers to address mental health crisis situations in the community. And we're also looking forward to continuing to work with St. Tammany Parish, with Parish President Brister, and with Miss Kelly Rabelais with the Safe Haven Project. Thank you very much for all that you are doing for our citizens in this community with that project. It's very exciting, very encouraging. Appreciate that. Most recently, we held 2 community forums to address the issue of suicide response and prevention, of course, because we just lost 2 children here in our own community, as you've already heard about, and I'm sure you knew long before this meeting. I keep thinking about what Kevin Hines said at our community forum, which we conducted on May 20th. He's the gentleman who came in from Atlanta to speak to us about his experience when, during a psychotic episode, he jumped from the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. He said that for hours before he jumped, he was surrounded by people who could see that something was obviously wrong, but no one helped. He said that no one even approached him to ask if he was okay. We want people to know what to say and what to do if they find someone in distress, whether it's a psychotic episode, a panic attack, a drug overdose, or a suicide attempt. We'd like to help you to keep our community safe. And I would like to thank Mrs. Butler for sharing her concerns and her experiences with us. I'm very sorry for the loss of her husband, and I'd like to invite her to contact us. I'm very interested in the things that she said tonight. So last fall, NAMI St. Tammany partnered with the National Council on Behavioral Health to bring a new training to St. Tammany Parish called Mental Health First Aid. It's similar to CPR training in that it focuses on how to provide basic first-line intervention during a health crisis. The difference is the type of crisis. Mental health first aid will help the responder to recognize when a person is experiencing a mental health crisis and to take steps to provide assistance. Now, we conducted a pilot session of mental health first aid last fall to see if there was interest for the program here in this parish, and there was overwhelming interest. The spring classes that we just held in March at the coroner's office also received very positive reviews from participants who represented local community organizations, pastoral staff from several churches, and several clergy from the coroner's new chaplaincy program. We were very glad to have them at this training. And so we have the great opportunity to partner with Oxnard Medical Center to offer a summer session of mental health first aid in June. At the end of this month, it'll be held at Oxnard North Shore in Slidell. It's an intensive, interactive 8-hour training with 3 dates to choose from, June 20th, 21st, and 23rd. 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Trainings are open to nurses from any hospital or clinic, to first responders and healthcare providers, teachers and school administrators, business professionals, and anyone who would be in need of this type of training. Over the last few years, there has been more attention on the issue of mental health, some of it positive, and some of it not so positive. NAMI St. Tammany wants to be on the positive side by offering practical, relevant solutions. We believe mental health first aid is one very important part of our efforts, and we hope that you can support our programs and encourage others to attend. For more information on mental health first aid or any of our programs that we provide, a person can call us at 985-626-6538 or visit us at our website, www.nami, that's N-A-M-I, sttammany.org. I thank you very much again for this opportunity to speak with you this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Benson. Thank you so much. Okay, we have one more presentation, but in order to do that, we're going to have to, Ms. O'Brien?
Yes, Chairman Dean. Unfortunately, I did miss the agenda deadline because I was not aware of this very special birthday that we're going to be recognizing. So I would ask if the council would vote to allow me to move this up right now.
Okay, so you want to open the floor for the
Yes.
off-the-floor agenda?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion by Ms. O'Brien, second by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Okay, both of your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, recently, the city of Mandeville recognized the gentleman behind me, Mr. Samuel Sams, who just made 95. But his story is rather interesting, and I'm looking forward to reading it to you. Mr. Samuel Sams Jr. was born to Reverend Samuel Sams and Mrs. Annie Husband Sams in Oakdale, Louisiana on May 25, 1921. He attended Mandeville Elementary and St. Tammany High School in Slidell before joining the United States Air Force, where he became a corporal and served in World War II in the 99th Tuskegee Division Fire Squadron. Now, the 99th Squadron distinguished itself by being awarded 2 Presidential Unit citations, June to July in 1943 and in May 1944, for outstanding tactical air support and aerial combat in the 12th Air Force in Italy before joining the 332nd Fighter Group. Mr. Samuel Sams received a lapel button on May 12, 1945, for being missing in action for 11 days also. After serving his country, he completed his education and has since been married to Marion Decree Sams for almost 39 years, and they have 3 children, Andrew, April, and BJ. He serves on the deacon board for the Goodwill Missionary Baptist Church, and he's also one of the original Fireside Gospel singers, too. So St. Tammany Parish would like to honor Samuel Sams Jr. for not only proudly serving his country and being a valuable citizen in our community, but we also want to wish him the best for his 95th birthday. And let me read the plaque. It says, the St. Tammany Parish government desires to recognize Samuel Sams Jr. on the occasion of his 95th birthday for his courageous service as a Tuskegee Airman during World War II and for being a very valuable citizen in our community. Now, Councilman Smith is a good friend of Mr. Sams and wanted to tell us a little bit more about his life.
Thank you very much for indulging us. I could not let this opportunity pass by without having some words to say on behalf of this man that I've known all of my life as Deacon Sams through the faith-based community in the church. That's where we met. And of course, he knew me before I knew him. But I learned some things about you tonight that I didn't know, Deacon Sams. But one of the things that I did know about him, though, that during the time when we grew up in the church and in the community, that everybody raised you. Everybody was your dad and your mom, whether you were home or wherever you were. But Deacon Sams would only have to speak to you in order to get your attention. Because if you ever heard him talk or sing, you would understand why. Because with the Fireside Gospel Singers that he so eloquently performed with over the years, all of my life, he sang bass. And that voice resonates throughout the room, and it goes through you, okay? So when he says, don't, you didn't. We say, stop, you stop. But it has been an honor to know this gentleman and also to learn about some of the things that he has accomplished over his life and career as well. And happy birthday, Deacon Sams.
I'm not a really talker, but I appreciate everything y'all have did for me since I've been here from the war. I did everything I could and everything I want to do after the war. So I thank all of y'all for having me in y'all's meeting, and I pray God that we will continue to let Mandeville go the same way it's been going. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Okay. Now we'll get down to the boring portion of the meeting, but I guess the more meaty portion. The next portion that we have is a consent agenda. Any items not pulled from the consent agenda are automatically approved in whole by one vote. Items pulled from the consent agenda are discussed and voted upon individually. Just keep in mind, these are all items that are being introduced, okay? So I do have some items that are being pulled, and then I'll ask the rest of the council member and then the public if they want to pull any items from the consent agenda. I have number 1, item number 5568, under ordinances for introduction. Item number 2, 5569. Item number 3, 5585. Item number 7, 5594. Item number 14, 5601. Item number 15, 5602. And item number 22, 5609. And then under consent agenda resolutions, I have item number 1, C 4595, and item number 10, C 4604. And now I'll go down the list here. Mr. Sharp, do you have anything? Mr. Thompson, Mr. Lorino, Mr. Toledano, Mr. Tanner, Mr. Groby? Okay, Mr. Canulet, Mr. Belisario, Ms. O'Brien, Mr. Stefancic, Mr. Bender, Ms. LeBlanc, and did I say Ms. LeBlanc? Ms. Blanchard. I think I must know of Michelle LeBlanc. Blanchard and Mr. Smith. All right, good. Here we go. Anybody from the public want to pull any items off the? All right, seeing none, let's get going on what we got here. No, ma'am, we're pulling it to discuss. Okay, first item. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yeah, we
move we
need to.
approve the consent calendar.
Okay, we got a motion to approve the consent calendar, second by Mr. Bender. Any discussion? What would you like? We're approving the ones that that were not pulled.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, first item is ordinance calendar 5568, emergency ordinance to impose a 30-day moratorium within Oak Downs subdivision. Mr. Belisario?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I had postponed this ordinance 5568 at the May 5th meeting because of concerns over the area to make sure I had the right definition to the property lines. And therefore, I want to introduce a substitute ordinance which had Mike Savant sent out to the council members to put this emergency ordinance in. And attached to the new ordinance is a map that shows the boundaries of that proposed moratorium. After I had walked the area with 3 of the Public Works personnel and residents in the area, it was deemed necessary to expand the boundary so that we can spend a couple months with our engineering department to review the drainage in there and come up with a plan to correct some of the flooding issues that exist there.
So what's your amendment?
My amendment is to expand the boundaries in accordance with the map that shows the layout of the configuration of the subdivision. It's attached to everybody's ordinance.
Okay, all right. So I have a motion to substitute, and then second by Mr. Canulet. Okay, and I'm also told that you need to extend it for an additional 5 days since there's more than 30 days.
Sorry, but you're correct. Because of the timing with this being June the 2nd, the next council meeting is July the 7th, and since unfortunately one of the home rule charter changes that would have taken us from meeting to meeting failed last year, we have to put in an additional 5 days to carry us from June 2nd to July 7th. So that's a part of the new ordinance.
Okay,
Apologize
so
for
I
that.
have a motion by Mr. Belisario and seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? Yeah. Oh, this is the amendment? So we vote?
This is an emergency ordinance. We have to vote on it.
Okay, because you're going to ask to suspend rules and adopt
Yes.
that.
Yes, that's next, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're voting on the amended version, correct? All right. Vote your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, now you have a,
Yes, sir, Chair. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and adopt this ordinance for the emergency purpose.
okay, so I have a motion to suspend the rules and adopt by Mr. Belisario, and I think Mr. Canulet had that. Any discussion? Vote with your lights to suspend the rules and adopt, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, second item, ordinance calendar number 5569, ordinance to impose a 6-month moratorium within Oak Downs subdivision. Mr. Belisario again.
Okay, I make a motion to move forward with ordinance 5569 for the 6-month moratorium timeframe. It's exactly identical to the other ordinance, except for the timelines.
Okay, so I have a motion to, you're amending it for 5 more days, correct?
That was on the first one.
Okay.
The only difference between this ordinance and the first ordinance was we don't need the extra 5 days in it. It'll be a
Okay.
6-month moratorium.
I got you. Okay,
Okay.
Yes.
all right. Yes, sir.
This also has to have the amendment of the boundaries. So that has to be voted upon before
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, I thought, okay.
you have to introduce it that way, either as substitute motion or
Okay.
introduction.
Yeah, I would do that. I thought it was, I didn't use the right language. It's a 6-month moratorium that will include the revised boundaries associated with ordinance 5568.
so I have a motion to amend Seconded by Mr. Canulette. We're voting on the amendment. Correct? OE lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
And now, do you want to make a motion to introduce?
Yeah, motion to introduce.
And second by Mr. Belisario. Not Belisario, Canulette. They look so much alike. All right. Okay, the third item, ordinance calendar number 5585, ordinance to declare condo unit 135 Kings Point Village condominiums as surplus tax adjudicated property and authorize a donation of same. Ward 8, Districts 13 and 14. Ms. Michelle.
I'm making a motion to remove.
Okay, I have a motion to remove by Ms. Blanchard, second by who? Belisario. Any discussion? Okay, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, let's see. Next was number 7, ordinance calendar number 5594, ordinance to amend the Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 16, Parks, Recreation, Scenic Neighborhoods, Article 1 in general, Section 16-001 through 16-006 to amend the rules and regulations for North Shore Beach. Ms. Blanchard.
I need to make a motion to postpone.
Okay. All right, I got a motion to postpone, seconded by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Okay, call the roll, please. Call the roll. Do your lights.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Going back 20 years. I was thinking that was the city council. Okay, you got it? Okay, next item is number 14, ordinance calendar number 5601, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.984 acres from A2 to A2 and mobile home overlay, Ward 7, District 7. I have some speaker cards, but Mr. Jacob, do you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Over the last couple of days, I've gotten texts and phone calls and emails, and I believe that there's a lot of confusion with this issue. Many of the texts and emails and phone calls believe that there's going to be some sort of a mobile home park there. I asked, and I confirmed with planning and zoning, one of the other concerns is that supposedly there has been no proper notification of the surrounding neighborhoods that this proposed zoning change is. Our zoning department does go out and site and post the property, and they do take a photograph, and this is one that I've had planning print for me to make sure that they did properly site the property. Another issue is that the total acreage of the property is only 1.89 acres. The current underlying zoning will stay. The zoning is not changing, which is amending it to allow, hypothetically, if the council supports it, a mobile home. They cannot put more than one living structure on the total of the 1.89 acres. So, I've spoken to Sid this evening, and, between the, phone calls and the emails, I asked him, when was the last time St. Tammany approved a mobile home park? And it was before he got here. It's not a mobile home park. It's one living trailer on 1.89 acres. So I just want to make sure that tonight is just for introduction. The public hearing will be next month. And if you wish, I have no problem with setting a meeting up with the property owner and the residents. But please, I just want to try to clear the air a little bit. Until yesterday, when Brad Gilmore called me first time, no one had called me on this. There was nobody at the planning and zoning meeting of any objection. So please come on up and, let me hear what your concerns are. Because until yesterday, I had not heard a single word. So please avail yourself.
And with that said, like he said, the issue, it is being introduced. According to the laws, we have to lay something over for 30 days. So tonight is the introduction. It'll come back up in the July meeting, July 7th. So, sir, I'm going to have 6 speaker cards. I'm not stopping you from speaking, but this is for introduction. It will not be voted on tonight. So I have, and if someone does want to talk, please raise your hand. I have Lana Bartow. Are you here? Do you want to speak? Okay, we have 2 minutes apiece, If you hear yourself repeating something that somebody's already said, please save us those.
I'm glad you clarified it. I did get a message today
Okay,
stating.
tell me your name and.
Lana Bartos, sorry.
Okay.
And I live in the subdivision. I did get a message today stating that it was going to be a trailer park. And so I'm glad you clarified that. And that's why we are all here, because we don't want that in our neighborhood, property value and crime and stuff like that. So thank you for clarifying it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barton. Okay, I have Timothy Hooker.
Name's Tim Hooker. I live in the Arendelle Heights subdivision, about 2 blocks away from where you're proposing the change. I can appreciate the fact that you have a picture of a sign. I drive down that road 3 times a day. That sign wasn't there. I mean, I can appreciate it was put there. It's not there. This was slid in. Nobody in the neighborhood had any clue of this. And we're all slightly upset about it. We feel like there's a little shady deal that's going on, and we don't want it to happen. That's it.
Okay, Ms. Gina Mora.
I'm already loud. I just don't want to echo.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right.
Even though it will not be a mobile home park, which is nice, still for property values, I still don't want a mobile home by my neighborhood. It lowers property values. It will also bring in an element of people who, when you don't own the land, they've done studies in North Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana from HUD that have already said, if you don't own your land, you don't appreciate it as much. So I would rather that not be rezoned.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Diana Marie?
My name is Diane Marie. I live on Arendelle, which is right around the corner from Oak Lawn. I'm glad you clarified that it's not a mobile home, because that's what I was, trailer park, because that's what I was told today. I had surgery. I was out for a couple of months. I didn't drive down the road, so I didn't see a sign. And this is the first time I've heard. It's good to know it would just be one home. However, mobile homes deteriorate very, very quickly. If you drive around Lacombe, most of them are on their last leg. And we put a mobile home in there, I don't think it's going to be within 10 years, it's going to fall apart. It's just not good for a neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? All right. Okay, do I have a motion to introduce, Mr. Groby?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do I have a second? Second by Mr. Thompson. All right, that's all that's needed. And keep in mind, this is an introduction, okay? Okay, next item is item number 15, ordinance calendar number 5602, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify located east of Highway 59, south of Lotus Street, north of Viola Street, from A3 to NC6. Ward 4, District 5. Whose district? Okay, Mr. Toledano, do you know anything about this? I'm being told that there's a need to amend to add acreage of 1.84.
Mr. Dean, Mr. Dean, it's simply a housekeeping to indicate that there is 1.84 acres involved in this.
Okay, all right.
To the extent that that would require amendment, I so move.
Okay, so I have a motion to amend by Mr. Toledano, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, now I need a motion to introduce.
Mr. Dean, considering an amendment, I now move for the introduction.
Okay. So, motion by Mr. Toledano, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Okay. Our next item is from resolutions. First, did I miss one? Okay, 22. Okay, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.68 acres from A2 to A3, Ward 1, District 1. Okay, I have a, Mr. Bissell. Okay, so who asked? Okay. All right, so I believe this is a mistake? Okay, so I'd like for someone to make a motion to introduce. Who was that? Mr. Stefanczyk, motion to introduce. Second, Mr. Thompson. Okay. All right, now we'll go to resolutions. Resolution CS number C4595, resolution to amend and ratify the annexation by the town of Abita and the rezoning of .85 from Parish SA to town of Abita Springs, Ward 3, District 5.
Mr. Dean.
Yes, sir.
Myself and with the help of Mr. Hand and the administration and Mayor Lemons, we have been working on resolving this issue, which involves basically the AutoZone property. We still have some work to do on it, and on that basis, I would move to postpone.
All right, I got a motion to postpone by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Stefanczyk. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, and then the last item is the number 10, resolution CS number 4604. It's a resolution authorizing Waterworks District number 3 of the Parish of St. Tammany, State of Louisiana, to proceed with the issuance, sale, and delivery of not to exceed $2.245 million water revenue bonds in one or more series. Mr. Lorino?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask if we could postpone this to the next meeting, please. We're going to have a meeting in another week or so, and we'll come back at the next meeting and make a presentation and present it to the council, please.
All right. Motion to postpone, and then second by Mr. Tanner. Any discussion? All right. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think they need to make it to the Agenda Review Committee for the presentation, not at the council meeting.
That'll be fine.
Is that okay, Ms. Lorino?
That's fine.
All right. Okay. All right, so the next portion of our agenda has to do with appeals. These are appeals from zoning meeting, usually or planning. But, so our first appeal is a oldie but a goodie. Been, I think, here 5 times. Jessica Lacey appealing zoning commission denial on January 5th, 2016 to reclassify 2.88 acres located at the northeast corner of North Park Boulevard and Park Place, Ward 3, District 5.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that piece of property is in my district, and basically the history of it, so that we're all aware of it, is the homeowners in that area have met with the developers on several occasions over a period of time. The developer ultimately agreed to impose some restrictions that would maybe bring this into a reasonable proposal to the homeowners. Unfortunately, he did not deliver that set of restrictions until a few days ago. We immediately distributed to the homeowners, but given the holiday week, they weren't able to meet. So on that basis, I'm going to postpone it, move to postpone it for one more time, advising you that the meeting is already scheduled for them to review that and come back to us in final form.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Toledano to postpone, second by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, second item is Thaddeus Bayham appealing the zoning commission approval on May 3rd, 2016 to rezone 4.547 acres located south of Galatas Road, west of C.S. Owens Road from CB1, that's community-based facilities, rural overlay, and A2 to A2 suburban district, and NC6. That's Ward 1, District 1. Mr. Bayham?
My name is Eric Bissell.
Okay, hang on just a second. You're going to have, each side will have 5 minutes and then 2-minute rebuttal.
That's fine. My name is Eric Bissell. I represent Mr. and Mrs. Bayham, who own the property immediately adjacent to this proposed commercial site. What this is, what the intended use is, under the N6, it's going to be an island in a sea of residential districts. The former zoning was A2. And it's going to be several acres, and it's to be dedicated for use as a baseball practice range. That's what the owners have stated is their intended use. That is very onerous, particularly if you live next door to it. There's probably going to be outdoor lighting. They've attempted to proffer restrictions, but as you know, you do not enforce building restrictions, so you shouldn't be motivated by anything less than a consideration of the worst possible commercial use that could be applied to this N6 area. Property is sold, it's N6, it could be anything else. But it's particularly onerous because of the intensity of its use. One thing, there are two things that I think that were fatal to this initial application. The original publication required that a formerly rezoned commercial area be revoked, and that was done last year, and that in place of that, a larger commercial area be rezoned N6. Problem is, the advertisement did not say which was which when it was published. There's no way to tell what was what. We objected to that at the Planning and Zoning meeting. They took no notice of our objection, but we restate that objection again tonight. One of the problems also is that this commercial zone is shoved to the back of this property. Now, the back of this property, this is approximately, the owners own an L-shaped 15-acre tract. The problem in doing that is by shoving it to the back of the property, it's going to abut against a road, but it is an unopened road. Now, what that's going to cause is, in order for people to use this commercial site, they're going to have to traverse about 500 feet on a road that goes through a residential district, which is A2. It will be A2 if you approve this. And the difficulty is, you're applying and allowing a commercial use across this A2. You can't do that. This property is an island. You're not going to have any commercial access to it. What they should have done, if they wanted to make their application a proper one, was to ask that the site itself be rezoned and that the access road also be rezoned. They haven't done that. It's going to be our objection later on, as this unfolds, that they do not have a right to build that road to access this property because that's going to be a commercial use traversing a residential piece of property. I don't have to tell you about the noise, the traffic lights, the noise, the lights, the nighttime lighting. There are no set hours of operation for this type of facility. And at school, the neighbors will tell you, in school hours, there is neither access nor egress without great difficulty for any of the people who live in that area when school is opening and closing. It's almost impossible to get out of your property. This is going to aggravate that. It does not belong in this area. I don't think you would want to live next door to this facility. And my client's property totally lines up against this property. Thank you.
Okay, just so you know, you used 3:42 of your 5 minutes. There's the other party. Do you have a spokesman? Please come up and tell us your name.
Hi, good evening. My name is Candace Hickman. I currently reside at 206 Red Fox Run Boulevard in Madisonville. We're here today to speak to you about supporting that change of zoning, of the current zoning of CB1 property to A2 and another portion of that land from A2 to NC6, which was recommended by both staff and approved by the Zoning Commission last month. It was originally rezoned last July by this council. It was referred back to the commission by the Parish Council in December as a means to try to respond to some of the needs that our neighbor had. Some of you may remember from previous meetings, we own a baseball facility called Mayhem Baseball Club, and we've been in business since 2010 in this parish. We're currently operating out of another rental location in Madisonville and are looking to move to a portion of its 10 acres that we own on Gladys Road. In the packet, we've provided for you a proposed site plan that shows you the current CB1 property along with the proposed NC6 property that we are seeking for approval. With this proposal, our home will be located between the Parish Road, Gladys, and where we would like to place our business, that of which was also part of the trying to appease neighbors. We've stated several times over the last year that our hopes were to obtain the needed zoning to own our backyard business that we originally got last July. We personally would be the neighbors to the newly rezoned property on the north and west sides of the property, with only one house adjacent to us on the south side that's owned by Mr. and Mrs. Gray, which is it's closest to them. And as part of that packet, we have a letter from the Grays showing their support for our project. Tonight, we ask that you concur with the decision of the Zoning Commission that was supported by both the staff of that NC6 Public Cultural and Recreational District designation and deny this appeal. I wanted to respond to a few things as well. When we went to zoning the first time, there was a concern about the advertisement, and staff went back and re-advertised and made sure that was checked legally. And as we went back the second time, everything appeared through your legal department that it was advertised correctly, and the zoning went through after that. The reason that it is in the back of that property was it was originally in the front, as you can see with that CB1, but at previous council meetings all throughout 2015, Mr. Bayham said that he would rather it in the back of our property, so we responded to that and have incurred many, many costs over the last year trying to respond to all of his. If you look in your packet as well, have been numerous tries to respond to his concerns with time and lighting and many other things. But ultimately, the last kind of time that those back and forth conversations stopped is when he asked that we put in that deed restriction to have no outdoor activity at all on that land. And that for us, as he stated in a phone conversation, was a deal breaker. To not have outdoor activity, and for us that's not reasonable to eliminate outdoor activity on that NC6 property. Thank you.
Okay, just so you'll know, you've used 331 of your first 5. Yes, sir. State your name, please.
Good evening.
And your address, please.
Thaddeus Bayham. I live at 1182 W.A. Walker Road in Macomb, Mississippi.
You live in Macomb, Mississippi?
Yes, sir. I'm living there temporarily. I have applied for and received a permit to build on the lot. And I'd like to clear up a couple of things. Number one, the person that lives closest to this property is not Mr. Gray. It's my niece, Miss Tesdale. Her property is immediately adjacent to this facility, so we want to clear that up. The other thing I'd like to clear up is this stuff with the deed restrictions. I think we've done everything we could to help this young couple. We don't have anything against them to get a deed restriction going. The deed restrictions failed, number one, because they tried several times to get these deed restrictions with other people than ourselves. The other thing is they tried to get this deed restriction with a church, with a pastor. Then they tried to get a deed restriction with some, and had it signed with some association that don't even represent the community. And in the middle of this, we're trying to work out a deal with a CB1. And that's what we thought we were negotiating. All of a sudden, a motion was made by this council to change that to a NC6. We thought we were still talking about the CB1. We had no idea we were negotiating on an NC6 at different locations. So there's been all kind of confusions. Now, I understand, I think I understand what's going on here. And I'm concerned that the parish has made a determination that they are going to force this onto this very poor ethnic community. Now, I sense this because the parish has changed their position on this. They made an objection to this about it being concerning a 2025 plan. It's not in the 2025 plan. All of a sudden, the parish has changed this and said that they agree with it because it's less impact. And I want to know where the less impact come from. That wasn't their original position. Now, the other concern that I got is that and I know my time is short.
Mr. Bayham, you have 1 more minute.
Yes, sir. My other concern is that at the commission, or when they were trying to get a increase in the property, people from the parish came to the meeting and objected, even though their staff did not recommend this, which leads me to believe something ain't smelling right here. And I have a lot of concern as to what the parish is trying to do in this area. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you have about 28 seconds left of rebuttal, Mr. Bayham, if you want to use that at a later time. Ms. Hickman, Ms. Hickman, anybody have any other rebuttal? You have about 1.5 minutes of your initial time and then 2 more minutes, so you got 3.5 more minutes.
I mean, the truth is we have tried to work with them and we've tried to write the deed restrictions to them. Every time we did, they came back with more, so we were willing to work with them. We were trying to eliminate certain things in that zoning, which they asked us to. We did. We kept going with their demands until the point where outdoor activity just pretty much told us they weren't really wanting to make a deal, kind of, in a sense, felt like it was stalling and just trying to keep this going. But as far as they brought up school traffic, our business is after school hours, so we're from 4 o'clock till 8:30 at night, so traffic should not be an issue because car line is done at that point.
This is something that is good for the community. It's hundreds of feet from a school. It's something that we're both a part of this community. We've been a part of this community. We work with teams in the community. I'm an administrator at the school that is a couple hundred feet from the property. This is a place that we are not looking to hurt a community. We are looking to add to the property value of that is around us and add to this community, to be there for kids, to be there for those as they're growing up, to give them a good place to go, a good place to be able to continue to stay involved and to continue to help St. Tammany Parish that we grew up in. As we grew up in Mandeville our entire lives, so we've been here. We want to continue to see that and be small business owners and part of the parish to grow into a good place.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Bayham and Mr. Bissell, you have 28 seconds left. Any?
Yes, sir, more misrepresentation, not one in any restriction did they agree to any time limit, not one. They have never, and they're stating facts that's incorrect. Now, if they said that they're going to close down at 8 o'clock, why did they put it in restrictions, and why didn't they sign it?
Okay. I don't know if you all want to, okay. All right, anyone else want to speak from the audience? Okay, you have about,
I didn't fill out a card, but I
You have
will
about-
if you need me to.
All right.
My name is Anthony Giancanteri.
okay, you have about a minute, 50 seconds
Okay.
left.
My name's Anthony Giancanteri. I am a proud supporter of this program. I've been living in this parish for almost 40 years. I'm 41 years old. So I know what it's like to live around here. The people that are trying to do this program are family people. We're trying to build people in this program. We're not out here to build a church or a restaurant like they were talking about last time we were here, but we're out here to build people, not just regular people, but better people. We have our children strive to be the best that they can be, whether it be high school, college, or even further than that. That's what we are here for. We're not here to just play around. We're here to teach our children to be better people and better players. That's what we are doing. That's what we were out here for. Thank you.
Right. Okay, you have 40 seconds left. Anyone else to speak? Okay. With that being, let's see. All right. Anyone on the council? Okay. This is in my district, so I'll just make a statement, and then this has been going on for a long time. I've been very much involved in the discussions and in attempting to kind of help them work things out. This is a couple who has about, I guess, close to 12 acres or so, and they want to build their home, and they want to have their training business, I guess. There are several of those in and around the property, or say up Highway 1077, directly across from Madisonville Elementary. There's one. So there's a lot of these little small neighborhood training facilities. So with that being said, I think that these folks have really shown a lot of real good grace in going forward with this. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to and let me just say this too, that the zoning department and the zoning commission both recommended this approval. Okay? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So, Mr. Thompson?
Mr. Dean, I move to concur with zoning approval.
Okay. All right. I have a motion. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And I lost my brain. I forgot chairman can't make a motion. Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Thompson. Thank you. And second by Mr. Belisario. Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, vote with your lights, please.
Motion passes with 13 yeas and 1 abstention.
Okay. So now, Mr. Thompson? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Thompson to introduce the ordinance. So I have a second. Second by Mr. Tanner. Thank you all. Okay. Number 3. Third appeal here, we have 3. Leroy Laporte appealing the zoning commission denial on May 3rd, 2016 to reclassify 6.403 acres located east of Highway 190 Service Road north of Judgetown Boulevard, Fairway Gardens Home Subdivision from PUD, Planned Unit Development Overlay, and HC2 Highway Commercial District to NC1 Professional Office District. That's Ward 4, District 5. Do I have yes, sir.
Leroy Laporte on behalf of Fairway Garden Homes LLC.
Okay, you understand you have 5 minutes and then.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
And 2 minutes rebuttal.
Yep. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Kelly on her position. I've had many dealings with her, and she's very professional and fair. Also, while we're on that, a lot of things were brought up about a lot of slander and false information being portrayed. I've recently experienced the same thing for the first time. I've had attacks on both my credibility, my family, and my employees due to false propaganda and lies being spread out about what we're actually doing in Fairway Garden Homes. We have an administrative office. It was built as an administrative office. This was done before the PUDs were in place, And my belief is that when the PUDs took place, that this particular office was left off, and it should have been a multiple use with this classified as an administrative office. So there's been a lot of false information spread about it. It is strictly administrative. We have documents that were prepared by Mr. Shane. They were filed in the courthouse. Those documents, which I can give you handouts on, specifically state that it's an office and can be used for administrative purposes. Let me hand out these documents. Also, it's our letter to Mr. Hagan outlining our position. Also in here are 2 permits that were granted, which specifically show that this is office space. The permits have to go through planning, and it was granted initially, and again, it was granted for renovations that were done. There have been a lot of intimidation of the residents. Again, this has spurred fear in them, and a lot of them were against this until we had a meeting and actually gave out the proper information. I've had multiple phone calls this morning with people in the community. The lady directly next door to us, who recently closed on her house a month ago, I approached while she was outside, didn't even know we had an administrative office working in there. Also, Greg Peace, who owns directly across the street, is in favor of it. The same thing. He didn't know we had an administrative office. There's a lady 2 doors down from the office that said the same thing. Their people aren't even aware that we're operating out of this building. I had a 20-minute conversation with John Donahue this morning, who told me the information that was spread in the community. Once I explained to him what was actually going on, he changed his position. He said, I'll just stay neutral, and I agree. If the majority of the residents want it, then let it be. I told that in a meeting with the residents the same thing. If the majority of these people don't want us in there, regardless of the ruling, we'll pack up and move out. We have had, to date, 16 people have responded after the meeting, after the proper information was given out, and we have 13 people that are in favor of this and 3 people that are against it. So I believe that we're in a democratic society and the majority should rule. You're going to be shown petitions and stuff that people gathered throughout the neighborhood, and again, based on improper information, lies, and deception. And most of them, I believe, are tenants, not owners within the community. The numbers that I gave you represent actual owners in the community that have a stake in this property, as well as I do. I still have 3 units. So there's no way that I would come in there and do something that would downgrade this community or cause people not to want to be involved or be a part of it. And like I said, the lady next door just closed on a unit a month ago and had no idea that we were even doing this. The same staff administratively that handles affairs for Fairway Garden Homes also handles affairs for LaPorte Plumbing, Southern Star Construction, Chinchuba Creek Garden Homes, LLC. This same operation took place originally. We were in the building for 5 years. During that 5 years, we had more than that going on. We built a whole nother development in Mandeville, which also has 2 10,000 square foot office buildings, and it has 60 units in it. That whole development was built while we were in that office.
You just entered into your rebuttal time, so you've used 5:08.
Okay.
You can continue talking. Just don't
That's okay. I'll come back.
All right, so you'll have about 1:50 left, I guess. Okay, I have 6 cards. What usually happens, these are the folks who are against this development or against this zoning case. So I have 6 cards. What usually happens is somebody gets up and kind of has a kind of a conclusive stance by the other side. So, so you do have 5 minutes, and then just like Mr. Laporte, you do have 5 minutes and then 2 minutes rebuttal. So so just keep that in mind, all right? First, I have Ms. Karen Wesner. Are all those two?
Yes, but they just said they didn't.
Okay. All right, Ms. Karen Wesner. Ma'am?
I'm just going to be a second.
Just tell me your name and where you live.
Karen Wesner, 2061 Christie Lane. It's a very small community. We don't need the traffic in there.
Pull the mic down if you wouldn't mind.
We don't need the traffic in there. There's people coming in and out. We don't feel safe with our children there. That's really all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then I have Ms. Maureen Eames. Is that it?
I'm Mitzi.
Okay, tell me your name.
I'm Mitzi Fernandez, and I live on Jonathan. I've been there for 10 years. We actually bought from Mr. Laporte. I am here tonight to voice my opinion that we do not want this rezoning. We actually bought into this community from the developer, and what we bought into was a safe, gated community. So since Mr. Laporte has now decided to run his plumbing and construction businesses for almost a year now, which I might add, it's been illegally run for a year because it is still zoned residentially, he has taken away our pool house, and he has taken away the security in our subdivision. The traffic in and out of the subdivision is a problem in itself. He has taken away our parking spots in front of our pool house, but his secretaries don't use those pool spots. They park in our guest spots because he needs his parking spots in front of the pool house for his in and out. The fact that we have strange people in and out of our gated community is a problem. We as a community should not be subjected to his employees and his clients coming in and out. This whole last school year, I have now brought my youngest son to the front of the subdivision in my car to catch the bus because of this business in my subdivision. Another huge concern I have is the value of my property. My husband and I bought that property shortly after Katrina, so we paid a high value. So at this point, we're trying to recoup on those values. But I believe that a commercial property in a circle of 70 homes is going to really hurt the value once again. So I believe that he's putting our value properties in jeopardy. And it is very odd to me that a developer who has developed many subdivisions would still want to keep control of our subdivision. I believe that the true agenda is for him to keep control so he is able to keep his business in our pool house. One may say we have issues with the control of our subdivision with Mr. Laporte, but the fact is he is running a business illegally out of our pool house that is zoned residentially. So he did not go through the process of getting it rezoned and moving in. He's there, and we live with it day to day. So as far as the homeowners who are against it, very quickly this weekend, we spoke to homeowners and we spoke to tenants who pay high rent values, and we have people who say we do not want him here. So I guess to wrap things up, we've talked at the beginning of the meeting how great St. Tammany is, and we're asking you, our council members, to deny this rezoning because we believe this rezoning is for his individual agenda. He doesn't even live in the subdivision. He comes in, he works, and he leaves. So, we want him out. I believe the majority want him out. So, and we do have a petition, and we have many signatures. So, thank you.
All right. You all, this side has one more minute in your initial argument. Anybody want to take the minute? Yes, ma'am. Your name is?
Is there someone who can pass these out? My name is Janelle Lemoyne. I am here this evening to voice my concerns regarding the illegal operation of two businesses in Fairway Garden Homes Pool Cabana located at 2029 Christie Lane. According to St. Tammany's Unified Development Code, confirmed by Ms. Helen Lambert, this area is zoned PUD HC2 Highway Commercial District. Mr. Laporte has recently been denied by the Zoning Commission on his request to change this existing zoning to NC1 Professional Office District. Starting in early 2015, Mr. Laporte, owner of Laporte Plumbing and Southern Star Construction, moved these companies' commercial offices into an area that he donated as the developer to a homeowners association on February 27, 2009. Concerned neighbors saw the construction and immediately called code enforcement. With the help of Mr. Hagan and Mr. Mott, a notice, red placard, was posted for permit violations. A cease and desist yellow placard was placed on 6/10/2015. The yellow placard was discarded along with all other postings. His fines and late fees were submitted the day after the cease and desist and after the construction was complete and the office generating income, case number 2015 CE 10686. Mr. Laporte has violated all code enforcement guidelines by disregarding the procedures that every other builder of St. Tammany Parish bylaw has to abide by. My pursuance of this case has put me in the midst of Mr. Laporte's vengeance by harassment, bullying, and my name being slandered. All have been ongoing throughout this case. A civil suit is pending, especially the filing of false police reports, ranging from felony trespassing and eviction notice, a reference that I am a lady making false statements and should not be confronted. The bottom line is that Mr. Laporte needs to vacate this property, and with your favorable decision for the owners and tenants tonight, we are scheduled to appear before Judge Black on June 23rd to have him enforce a cease and desist immediately, since Mr. Laporte has said that he will appeal the JDC. As noted, he has made profit from his business for 1 year. Ms. Brister's aide, Ms. Ann Poplovich, and Kelly Rabelais, who is lead counsel, we met in a private meeting to discuss this case. Our District 5 councilman, Mr. Riker Taladano, is also aware of this by the many concerned neighbors' correspondence to his office. Mr. Laporte has taken a business his family started over 50 years ago, and he has brought it to you here tonight for all to see. We are asking you to vote against Mr. Laporte's appeal.
Okay, you all have used all of your time. Mr. Laporte, you have 1 minute, 50 seconds left.
First of all, let me address this. We're talking about moving in the building illegally. And again, we operated an office out of here before for 5 years. We built an office building, moved into that building. The building was sold. We moved back. We thought there was no issues with it whatsoever until this was brought up. So we didn't purposely do something illegal. Again, there's accusations that we're actually running a company, storing materials, running trucks. It can't be further from the truth. It's strictly administrative. We are there in the hours of operation, 9 to 5. The people are gone. There's plenty of parking. As far as the school bus issue, the schools come by before that. We're not interfering with any of that. Again, we got a next door neighbor, didn't know we were operating there. We got people across the street, and we have people down the street. And as far as the accusations, I have these I can pass these out where there's police reports and sheriff letters about Ms. Lemoyne's activity and her personal accusations. And this is not hearsay, these are police reports. With witnesses
and if
also.
it doesn't have anything to do with this case, then we don't even need to
It has to do with the falsehoods of the accusations being made into propaganda.
If it doesn't have to do with this zoning, then we don't want to hear about all the other.
Also, we did have a HOA established in the community. The HOA dissolved itself because of all the trivial information that they were bombarded with. They actually resigned. There is no HOA, so there has to be control in the subdivision. We're going to have administrative people set up part of the community to respond with us and the management company so that we can transition to another HOA. But right now, since that HOA resigned, there's nobody in control. And as far as the permit issue, all of that's been satisfied. We put in some demising walls and did some painting.
You can go ahead and wrap up if you'd like.
Yeah, if everybody in this parish that painted or added demising walls that's non-structural came to the permit office and filed permits, they'd be inundated with information that's trivial and wouldn't be able to carry on the business of the development of this parish.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Dean?
Yes, sir.
Is it our opportunity to speak?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dean, this property is in my district. I'm very familiar with it. I knocked on the doors out there. I have met and talked to many people about this. I received multiple phone calls. I'm a little bit confused about where the personality stuff gets involved in this, and I would say with respect to Mr. Laporte that has no relevance to this case at all. But what is relevant is whether the use that he intends to put, but more important, the use that he has put, in my view, without authorization, is totally inappropriate to the character of that neighborhood. This is a very nice townhouse development. I cannot tell you how many calls I've received. I have a petition that was developed in very short order with over 33 homeowners plus an additional 12 tenants. In my view, this is a classically inappropriate use of a property. It's more complicated by the fact that this is a townhouse development, so there is no built-in insulation by the size of the lots, by the separation of the parties. Some of the residents who have struggled with this for some period of time have produced photographs that clearly tells me that there is activity going forth that is very commercial in nature, plumbing trucks in and out, unnecessary traffic, totally inappropriate. It's my view that this matter should be concurred with in terms of the zoning denial. Mr. Fontenot's group so recommended it be denied. I join in that recommendation and so move.
Okay, so I have a motion to concur with the zoning denial, seconded by Mr. Canulette. Any further conversation? Okay, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Toledano, you want to make a motion to adopt the resolution?
I so move.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, second by Mr. Canulette. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
All right, now we're done. We're finished with the appeals. Now we're going into ordinances for adoption. Let's see. Okay, first ordinance for adoption, ordinance calendar number 5206, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 3.02 acres from HC3 to I1. Let's see, where is that? Ward 8, District 14.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we'd like to ask the petitioner that they would come forward this time. I think they want to make a statement to the council in reference to this ordinance.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm in Covington. I represent Mr. Chris Jean, who is the owner and developer of this property. It is unusual that we ask you this evening to again consider the postponement of adoption of this ordinance for another 6 months. As you can see with the listing of the ordinance, this request has been made in the past and you've been very kind in granting it. It is also somewhat unusual that this property in some respects seeks actually a down zone from HC3 to I1. And the reason that we ask that you postpone the request is that we are still working with a national concern. We actually had an agreement proposal with them at one point to locate a very fine business which would generate good commerce at that location. But because their business would also include some outdoor display of equipment and storage of material, the I-1 zone is needed. The HC3 zone is not appropriate. Because of the downturn in the oil industry, the company has not pulled the trigger to buy the land and build the building. When we started this project, oil was north of $100 a barrel, and we all know where oil is today. So the good news is that these discussions are still in place. We are hopeful that another 6-month postponement, which would put us in December, might bring us this business opportunity at this location, at which point we would very much appreciate the adoption of the zoning ordinance at that time. So hopefully that gives you some reason to consider a 6-month postponement until your December meeting. If any of you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them. And thank you for your time.
Mr. Smith, you're in support of this?
Yes, I am, and just like to point out that this particular development and business park is one of the premier commercial or industrial developments on the eastern end of St. Tammany Parish, and we definitely concur with the observations made by the petitioner and would like to support the postponement of this ordinance.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Smith to postpone this for 6 months, and I think Mr. Canulet seconded it. Any discussion? As he exited.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any discussion? Okay, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay. All right. Second, ordinance calendar number 5546. Ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.933 acres from NC 5 to A8, Ward 4, District 10. Mr. Bender? No, who's 10? Maureen, I'm sorry.
Chairman Dean, if it's okay, I'd like to ask Mr. Savant to go ahead and discuss just for the record, a deed restriction that we were presented regarding this.
Yes, Ms. O'Brien, as you are well aware, one of the reasons that the council was waiting to consider adoption of this ordinance affecting the zoning change was for the applicant and opponents to the proposed zoning to work out the particulars of a voluntarily provided deed restriction on the property offered by the property owner in conjunction with his application to the zoning commission and subsequent approval of that commission. So, as you know, Ms. O'Brien, you had received notice by the parties to the deed restriction that it had in fact been ironed out and recorded in the records of the clerk of court. So at this point, all steps have been concluded in the the formation and recording and application of the deed restrictions as offered by the applicant in this matter.
Okay, so what's your pleasure?
Okay, so seeing no opposition, I'll move to approve.
Okay. I have a motion to approve by Ms. O'Brien, second by Mr. Canulet. I'm sorry. All right. Any further discussion? All right. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, third item, ordinance calendar number 5560, ordinance authorizing the parish to accept the dedication of roads, roadside drainage infrastructure, signage within Madison Villa subdivision, Ward 1, District 1. Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, vote with your lights, please.
Mr. Toledano? That's okay. Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, ordinance calendar number 5567, ordinance to extend 6 months, I'm sorry, for 6 months, the moratorium within any portion of Highland Park subdivision, District 12.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Bender and second by Mr. Stefancic. Any discussion? All right, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, fifth item. Ordinance calendar number 5570, ordinance to approve and establish an amended annual salary for the St. Tammany Parish coroner and to include the coroner and all coroner's office staff in the St. Tammany Parish personnel salary matrix. It can either go to Mr. Taladano or Mr. Hand, who wants to discuss it. Riker, did you? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, even though I might mind, go ahead.
My feelings are hurt, but I'm going to get over them. Needless to say, this issue has been one of great discussion here in this community, both within our group as well as the general public. And it occurred to me as I listened to the comments that one of the concerns has not to do with Dr. Preston personally, but has to do with the history of how that office was run. And that is to say, there seemed to be an indicated concern that the coroner's office has been perhaps abused in the past, and the coroner historically did not apply himself and his energies and time full time. And there is some underlying thought process, well, maybe that would be the same with the now present and just recently incoming coroner. Moreover, I think actually I want to just also say that those type of concerns I think are understandably legitimate based upon the history. So one of the things that I had occasion to discuss with Dr. Preston is the commitment that he has made in public in the past. And that is, in his view, it's a full-time job. He has certainly applied himself in a full-time fashion. And my question to him, is he willing to continue to commit to be a full-time coroner? His unequivocal answer was yes. I think that's an important thing, and I think that's an important thing for our public to know that as we look and entertain a realignment of his salary to what the majority will be deemed reasonable, that they want to know, that is the public as well as us, that Dr. Preston will continue to operate in a full-time basis. So with that having been said, and with the help of Mr. Hand, I have proposed, and you have before you, an amendment that basically would say that the coroner's position will be consistent with the cooperative endeavor agreement, which was in effect as of January 2014, and that by adopting the parish personnel matrix applicable to all coroners, it requires full-time service, that is to say 80 hours. Dr. Preston says he's willing to do that, and by the way, that's 80 hours bi-weekly, not on a weekly basis. So I scared him for just a moment. Probably scared his wife too. But I think this satisfies and certainly in my mind deals with some of the greater concerns expressed by the public. So with that having been said, Mr. Chairman, I would move to adopt the proposed amendments which you have before you, which will include at the appropriate point in time Dr. Preston executing what I guess would be deemed, and I'll yield to Terry, an amendment to the cooperative endeavor agreement. And all that does, and quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, I've looked Dr. Preston in the eye, and I don't need anything in writing from him, and he certainly has proven that to us. But I think for our obligation to the general public, this gives assurance that we are doing the right job as custodians and overseers to their funds, the public funds, and particularly to coroner's funds. That having been said, I'm going to just say one other thing. I have watched this gentleman, as has Ms. Brister and several of you councilmen, work tirelessly in some of the issues, particularly in the mental health field that I've been so impressed by his activity. He has continued and will continue to develop programs in that regard. He has reached out in a cooperative fashion with partnershiping with other of our agencies on suicide prevention. And quite frankly, he did it before the tragic loss of these two kids, and he continues to do it. I know some of the people that work in his office. They speak extremely well of his dedication and his come to work all day, every day attitude. I'm very impressed by him. I think St. Tammany Parish is blessed to have him, and I hope you would favorably consider those amendments. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have
Mr. Chairman, you need to get a motion on the floor and then amend it.
I moved to.
I'm getting there. Give me a second. So have a motion.
I thought I did, Mr. Dean, but formally again, I moved to adopt the amendments that are before you tonight.
All right, and so I have a second. All right. Okay, so Mr. Bender, you're going to discuss the amendment?
Just for, that's wasn't my purpose for having a light on, but I will say that I think the amendment by Mr. Toledano is a good one. When Mr. Hand and I and the other attorneys worked on the original ordinance, we felt like we had closed that up to where it would continue to be full-time. But I agree with Mr. Toledano's approach to this, that the amendment, which Dr. Preston has agreed to, will make it absolutely locked tight, and so I certainly am going to support Mr. Toledano's amendment.
Okay, and Mr. Smith, you have a comment on the amendment?
Yes, sir. First of all, I want to say that I cannot support this amendment, and it has nothing to do with the person that's holding the office. As Mr. Toledano so eloquently stated in his opening comments about this ordinance, that this has nothing to do with the current coroner. But there are some other factors that I think we need to at least consider again and make known to people who are not here tonight, and that many of us have talked to across the months about this particular subject. And it has to do with the amount that's being considered here from 2 years on the job to this current time, and how much we are considering increasing this compensation. So taking the personality out of the picture, and looking at the objectivity of the amount of money that we're asking taxpayers to consider going in their pockets and shelling out for a raise that is, in many people's opinion, quite exorbitant, percentage-wise, about 64 or somewhere around in the 60 percentile category. Another factor that many people are looking at, and I've talked to quite a few people across the
This is on the amendment. The amendment to nail down a full-time job, and then we'll have a motion on the actual ordinance. So what I'm saying is stay on the amendment if you would.
Okay, I thought I was, but
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Some other factors that we have looked at that I think needs to be talked about as well, and at least shared, is that when we looked at a compensation for this particular office 2 years ago, we conducted a survey, we conducted a study nationwide and statewide, and we came back with some data that helped us to make the decision that many people consider today a bad decision. Nevertheless, it was the best available information that we had at the time to make that decision, and we made the decision. And in the interim, there were some other factors that we looked at, part-time versus full-time, and I think Mr. Toledano spoke to that as well. And we looked at some data that helped us to make a decision as to whether it was part-time or full-time, and I think that's a part of what we had to consider this time in trying to come up with something that was reasonable as it relates to a salary increase for the coroner's office. Public versus private is another factor that I think many people in the community have talked about,
when they were asked in a poll that we took across the parish, and not just in District 14, but throughout the entire parish, except maybe one community, and I think that was Folsom, that we did not talk to. And we asked people, what did they think? Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to have to pay the freight. And I have that information here available, if you mind passing that around to my colleagues, showing what those numbers and what some of those responses were. And only one out of the 42 individuals that we polled came even close to what we're considering here tonight, and that was $130,000. Most of them were on the leave it as it is end of the poll. But sometimes we have to make sure that we don't get our personal opinions too involved in these decisions that we make. And so that was the reason why we took it to the people. We asked people.
I don't know who did.
Okay.
I think I still have the floor, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead. But speak to the amendment. The amendment is about asking the coroner to commit to full-time. In just a second after we vote on that amendment, then we will come back and we'll discuss the entire ordinance as it relates to going to the salary raise.
Then I'll reserve the rest of my comments until later then.
Okay, all right. Ms. O'Brien, hang on, sheet. Yes, sir.
I wanted to address the salary itself, not the amendment
Okay,
for
we are on the
full-time.
amendment.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion on the amendment and a
Correct.
second on the amendment.
Correct.
I think that we should take the vote on the amendment, and then I would like to make a motion on the ordinance as amended.
As amended.
And then we can go to discussion, am I correct?
Yep, I
Okay.
wanted to see if anybody had any discussion.
So I'd like to call
about
the
the
question on the amendment.
Okay, the question's been called.
Well,
No, I don't think you could do that with people wanting to speak.
oh, I didn't know
I mean,
anybody
I-
else wanted to speak
My
on the
light's on,
amendment.
my
My
light's
light's
on right
on.
there, Jerry.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
keep in mind,
My
folks,
light's
we're
on.
talking,
Oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead, but speak about the amendment about the full-time.
I'm
Who
gonna-
had it on first?
It doesn't matter. I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I understand.
It does matter, but go ahead.
I understand, Mr. Chairman, exactly what we're supposed to touch on here, and I was a little curious on why we strayed off. But anyway, never mind. The bottom line for me is, one of the concerns that I had in this whole problem that I inherited from the last council is whether or not it's a full-time or part-time job. I believe it should be a full-time job. St. Tammany Parish is a parish that deserves a full-time coroner. Dr. Preston, in my opinion, did that on a part-time statement that he made prior, but he's in here now as a full-time coroner. So I just want to go on the record and say, on that issue, I am fine on this, and I'll discuss the rest, so I support the ordinance to do that.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr.
ma'am.
Marino.
Thank you.
Mr. Tanner.
Well, my discussion is also on the full-time and part-time part. You know, I think it's ridiculous for us to include this in this ordinance when we got a parish-wide elected official who for the last 3 or 4 years has been working probably 60 hours a week instead of 80 hours every 2 weeks. And we're going to put this in writing to make it seem like we've really done something? Who are we trying to fool? The public? This man, we know what this man can do. We know what he has done. I don't know why we had to put this in the ordinance. I'm going to vote against the amendment.
All right. Okay. Ms. Blanchard.
I have to agree with Mr. Tanner. I believe that the current coroner has worked this. I don't think that another coroner will ever be elected in St. Tammany Parish if they don't work full-time, or they don't say they're going to work full-time. If they go into this office and they don't work full-time, they're not going to get reelected. So I'm not sure that this needs to be put in, and even if we're not looking at this coroner for the reasons I just stated, I don't think that it needs to be there for future coroners to state that they have to work this. And I would imagine that our present coroner is available 24 hours, 7 days a week, just like any department head, president of our parish, our assessor, or any other elected official.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Blanchard. Mr. Belisario?
Yeah, I want to address the part-time, full-time, because I've been doing this thing since the get-go. when all the stuff erupted with the former coroner. The people in this parish have major distrust for elected officials. I don't think any elected official in this room would disagree to that. What Reichert is doing with several of the council members supporting it is to define exactly that it's full-time. It gets into our system to denotes that he's going to be working 80 hours every 2 weeks. So I don't see the issue. I says, and I tell you right now, within a year from now, I'm going to come forth with something to talk about changing the state law that puts all of this under the parish council. I'm not supportive of what we're doing because we have too many twos and fros back and forth on the coroner's office, and we got 4 other parish-wide offices that are free to do whatever they want to do. We have major restrictions on our parish president, who deserves to be paid more than she is, but everything in there is shown right in the home rule charter. So my problem is we are, I believe, overreacting with this, but I agree with it because of the tone of the public. So I'm going to support the amendment. Thank you.
Okay, y'all have your lights on. TJ, did you want to talk?
No more than to echo some of what I've heard already. Right now, the state statute is silent on this issue of full-time, part-time. It's also silent on the issue of compensation. So it's left up to the local electorate or governing bodies in which to address it. So I agree that the amendment at least gives us something that allows us to have a measurable when it comes down to whether it's this coroner or any coroner as to whether or not they are performing at the level that the public would expect them to.
All right. Mr. Bender.
Mr. Chairman, and going back to what Mr. Belisario said, and maybe I'm going to put it this way. I both understand and support what Mr. Reich and Mr. Toledano is saying, and I also understand and support what Mr. Tanner and Ms. Blanchard are saying. Now, how can I do that? Well, it's simple. The reason I can support what Mr. Tanner and Ms. Blanchard are saying is that we're talking about Dr. Preston. There is no doubt in my mind, okay, after watching Dr. Preston, coordinating with him, the council and Dr. Preston have asked me to be the so-called liaison because of Act 181 that came into play by a state representative that put it forth. I've worked with him closely. The man has been full-time from day one. So, in that respect, do I really need this amendment with Dr. Preston? No. However, so I support what Mr. Tanner and Ms. Blanchard are saying. Where I also support, though, what Mr. Toledano is saying is I look to the future when we make a decision. What I know from the past, and all of us who were on the council in that terrible year, okay, with the previous coroner, I want to use the term the previous coroner, okay, is that we got word the salary had increased to $210,000 a year, which we had no control over, but that the person was coming to work 2 to 4 hours a week. Okay? Now, because of what Mr. Smith is saying, that state law, and our attorneys confirmed this, I was chairman at the time, not when we voted on the 84, but I was a member of this council. Those of us who were here know what we went through and considered when we had to make that vote. I was told by our attorneys that we couldn't dictate that the previous coroner be full-time or part-time. That state law, the Constitution, was silent on that issue, correct, Mr. Hand? Correct. And there was no opportunity to do anything to change that $210,000 because of working 4 hours a week or 2 hours a week or coming in only for a staff meeting, okay? Now, once the act passed, and then it came to us to consider The next corner, we didn't know. This was done in 2014 before qualifying. We didn't know who was going to be the next corner. We didn't know, were they going to be part-time with a medical practice, just like we don't know with the district attorney, who also is allowed to have a legal practice, okay? And yet still, neither the coroner nor the DA can be dictated to be full-time or part-time by state law. So, when we get past Dr. Preston, who will we have as coroner? I think what Mr. Toledano's amendment is saying is simply that if you want to be paid at this level, and maybe Mr. Toledano can correct me if I'm wrong, but for future coroners, if you want to be paid at this level, you will agree that you will be full-time. If the next coroner has a medical practice, which that person is allowed to have. The Jefferson Parish coroner has a medical practice. He's taking $90,000 a year because he's working one and a half days a week. The Caddo Parish coroner has no medical practice. 12,000 people more than us. That's Shreveport. He makes $192,000 a year. The East Baton Rouge coroner has almost full-time, slight medical practice, $210 a year. So I'm just thinking of the future, and that's why I'm voting on this amendment. This is not about Dr. Preston for me. I know he's going to continue to be full-time. He's committed that he's willing to agree that he is going to continue to be full-time. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
If a future coroner decides, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to be full-time, I don't think there's anything we're doing here tonight that is saying a future coroner can't be anything but full-time. That we're not voting on that. Am I correct, Mr. Hand?
Yes, that would be correct.
We're voting on if you want to be at step 19, grade 19, step 1, you have to commit to be full-time. That's what I understand Mr. Toledano's amendment to be.
That's correct, because the current coroner is agreeing to that.
Correct.
And the way that it becomes legally binding is because through the amendment of the CEA.
Correct.
In which it states in the CEA, the hourly rate, not just for the current coroner, but also for his employees.
Correct.
We are placing him in a matrix system that is also applicable to the parish employees.
Correct. And I'll end with this. But, Mr. Hand, a future coroner, beyond Dr. Preston, when he decides that he doesn't want to run again, or people decide on someone else, correct me if I'm wrong, that future coroner could have a 3-day-a-week private practice and say, I'm not going to sign that CEA because I'm not going to commit to be full-time.
And the issue becomes the state constitution. The state constitution says that during the term of office, you cannot decrease the salary. It's a constitutional issue. That was the issue with the last coroner.
Correct.
We could not legally decrease the salary that he basically had set for himself.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'll call
let's wrap this up.
call
Go
for the
ahead.
question on the amendment, please.
Okay. Good. Question been called. We have a motion on the amendment. No further discussion. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion passes, 11 yeas, 3 nays. The abstention is a mistake. That does not include a member of the council. 11 yeas and 3 nays. The abstain was an incidental button hit by somebody who's not on the council.
Mike's a bunch.
Teresa.
Okay,
Teresa, will you not mind a no on the amendment? It came, I hit the button.
so you were a no,
I was
Ms.
a no.
Blanchard?
Yes, if you can clear it on the amendment,
So
I'm a
it's
no.
10-4. Good, buddy. Okay, we're good? Okay, now that that amendment has passed, Mr. Bender.
Yes, sir. I would like to make a motion to adopt.
As amended.
Yeah, adopt as amended. Ordinance calendar number 5570, item 5 on ordinances for adoption.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stefanczyk had his hand up.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you,
I
Steve.
have, okay, the council can take a break just a second. We do have other people who would like to talk. We have 5 cards. A lot of people have been sitting here waiting for a long time. 2 minutes apiece. So, Miss Jan Robert, you want to start?
Oh, I never saw Jan over there.
Good evening. Good
Hi,
evening,
Jan.
President Brister, members of the council. My name is Jan Robert. I live at 135 North New Hampshire Street in Covington. I currently serve as the project manager of the St. Tammany Behavioral Health Task Force. And I've had the incredible honor and privilege to lead this community collaboration in achieving the mission and goals towards development of an integrated comprehensive behavioral health delivery system. And Dr. Preston has played a very large role in that. Dr. Charles Preston is an active member and supportive of the Behavioral Health Task Force Collaborative, as well as a tireless advocate for raising the awareness of mental illness, educating the public on suicide prevention, and seeking the most humane treatments to decriminalize mental illness and substance use disorders and lead these individuals towards recovery. With his vast knowledge and experience as an emergency room physician, he is able to bring a perspective and wisdom to the table as we partner with the task force and with St. Tammany Parish government to develop a facility and resources for behavioral health at the Safe Haven campus. Dr. Preston has always been completely accessible to the task force, providing the members, as well as multiple work groups and committees on which he serves, with practical advice and leadership as we transform and recreate an improved system of care for mental health. And you've heard that the need is tremendous tonight from many people that presented to you earlier. Most importantly, Dr. Preston has demonstrated more than passive participation in meetings. He has repeatedly demonstrated that he truly cares about the people in the parish that he has chosen to serve. He performs the job tirelessly and quietly with dignity, empathy, and honor. I do hope that this parish council, in their wisdom, recognizes the value of his contribution and continued leadership to this parish and approves the ordinance to establish an amended annual salary for the St. Tammany Parish coroner as a full-time coroner for this parish. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan. Okay, very well said. Okay, Ms. Benson? Martha Benson, okay. And I did forget to say we have 2 minutes apiece. Jan did it perfect.
Again, good evening and thank you. As I mentioned earlier, I'm the program coordinator for NAMI St. Tammany, and you are aware of the services that we provide. I would like to help clarify what Dr. Preston has been able to accomplish in his 2 years of service as our full-time coroner, specifically in the area of mental health, of course. Every month, the coroner's office responds to hundreds of calls involving mental health crisis situations. But Dr. Preston has taken the initiative to also offer resources, research, information, and educational opportunities that have proven invaluable to our community. I believe that some of his most impactful work has been his presence all across the parish as he personally speaks to educate us on the issues of mental illness, mental health care, and suicide response and prevention. When we coordinated the community forum on suicide response and prevention back in April, as usual, Dr. Preston was there to again speak to us and share information. He's been available every time we've asked for his help, even when it means working well beyond his full-time hours. Dr. Preston serves us well. I don't think he's conducting business that is outside of his scope of responsibility as the coroner. Rather, he's doing exactly what we asked him to do, but to a level of excellence that we only hoped that he would take on. On behalf of NAMI St. Tammany and the families that we serve, I respectfully ask the council to carefully consider the validity and practicality of Dr. Preston's petition. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Donald Bryan.
Mr. Chairman and Council, my name is Donald Bryan. I'm pastor First Pentecostal Church in Slidell. I also serve as a chaplain with the coroner's office, Dr. Preston. Much has been said tonight about this position. I'm not speaking as a chaplain, but really just as a citizen. But having served as chaplain, this gives me a little insight into the operation of this office. And I can echo, I think, everything that's been said tonight. We have more than a full-time coroner who has brought in a very short time such incredible integrity, efficiency of operation for this office that I think all of us in this parish can be very proud of. I think all of us are aware of all the drama and questions about the salary and so forth, but I'd like to request that the council look beyond the past and actually forget the past and base your decision on the merits of what we have today in this particular position. What we do have is a parish-wide elected official who's the head of a major department. We also have a medical doctor who is directing that. I understand on certain occasions in parishes that they have non-doctors, but as Michelle said, we'll never have anything but a medical doctor, I think, as our coroner. And I think he ought to be paid commensurate with that education. And then lastly, we've seen personally the efficiencies and the improvement of this operation, and he has worked diligently. As chaplains, we're called all hours of the night, and I can't tell you how many times you show up at 9 or 10 at night to respond to help a family. And guess who's there also? This doctor here as well. He's not required to do that, but that's more than full time. So as just a citizen, I ask you to approve this salary matrix that you're discussing tonight because I think that he has earned that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Reverend St. Angelo.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on Dr. Preston's behalf. I suppose the last elected official anyone wants to meet is a coroner. That is usually not good news. He deals with death and tragedy, probably the most horrible impact in people's lives that takes place. But Dr. Preston is not a man who deals with death, but he's a man who deals with life. And I saw that with him. My name is Morris St. Angelo, but I represent the Slidell Ministerial Alliance, also known as the Slidell Ministers Association. And when I first took over that position a year and a half ago, Donald Bryan, who just spoke, came to that organization, which we were forming and resurrecting, if you will, and said that the new coroner wants to start a chaplaincy program. Well, out of that first meeting, we began to organize and working with Dr. Preston in his office. And today, in this parish, we have in excess of just about 30 trained chaplains, men and women. That is amazing, because when you need the coroner's office, you will find a man or a woman of God there to assist the family. Dr. Preston saw that his job was very well represented in taking care of people for his investigation and the things that the coroner's office does. But he saw the vacancy and the vacuum and not being able to touch people and help them with their emotional and spiritual needs. And so he used his leadership to inspire us to put together the chaplaincy program. We are mandated to have crisis intervention, stress management training, very intensive training, so that we are well able to do those things in the parish. We had the trainer came in from Atlanta, and when he got here, we were driving him to the coroner's office for the training session, and he said, well, how many people will be there? And we said 27. He said, how did you get 27 people to do that? He said, in Atlanta, we tried to do it, the coroner's office. We got 7, and of the 7, only 2 would work. Today, we have about 30 people working volunteer basis because of the leadership of Dr. Preston. When I travel quite a bit in the several hats that I wear as a pastor of a church and other things that I do, wherever I go, I see Dr. Preston. I'm in Baton Rouge at the governor's breakfast, he's there. I'm at meetings in Slidell, he's there. Wherever I go, he's there. I don't know if he ever goes home. But I want to just close with one brief story, because the coroner's office struck me directly about 4 weeks ago now, I guess. One of my best friends in Slidell called me at 9:40 on Saturday morning. He's a man's man, and he was crying, which I've never heard him cry before, and I knew who he was because my phone ID identified him. And he finally was able to eke out. He said, my son just killed himself. And I said, Joe, when? He said, I just found him 10 minutes ago. He said, you're the first person I called. I rushed over to his house, as you can imagine I would. And when I got there, before I left, we had 3 chaplains there to assist this man. It was tragedy, mother, dad, brothers, sisters, children, wife, going through this horrible ordeal. One of the investigators for the coroner's office, Mark Ford, showed up. What's not so amazing that he showed up with the other people from the coroner's office that were there, but that it was his day off. And he got dressed on Saturday morning to come out and help someone in need. Of course, he knew me, and that obviously helped. Unbeknownst to me, Dr. Preston showed up. Again, Saturday morning, not his job. Unless you experience this, and I hope you never have to experience it, you will never know the power of Dr. Preston and his office when he shows up. The comfort, the information, the caring that he gave to this family that I know so well could not be calculated. Whatever you decide to pay Dr. Preston, he's working more than full time. He deserves more than you're going to pay him. You don't have enough money to hire him, I don't believe, from what I know about the man. But there's a scripture that says a laborer is worthy of his hire. The man's laboring, I think he's worthy of his hire. I think he needs to be paid. I strongly suggest that you move on this motion in his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, Mr., I don't have the first name, Cone, C-O-N-E?
Richard Cohn, please come up. Marty, this is Richard Cohn. He's one of my constituents who attends my monthly meetings, and he sat in more than one meeting when we discussed the coroner's salary. So I thought it was worthwhile to hear from someone from the public who comes to our meeting but never speaks.
I'm sorry I didn't have a speech prepared because I did not know I was going to be speaking until Councilman Belisario asked me to. I do attend his meetings, and they are very well attended. And one of the past meetings in the last few months, we discussed the salary for the coroner. We had 35, 40 people in this meeting, and not one objection to your proposed salary, except there were some objections that you wasn't paying him enough. I'm one of those people that don't think you're paying him enough. The qualifications he has, the job that he has, the responsibility, if someone just said, you can't buy him, you can't pay him enough, you don't have enough money. And I would very much appreciate if you all would approve this. I am also the president of our homeowners association. I haven't spoken to all 352 homeowners, but I've spoken to a lot of them. And none of them object to this salary. None of them. Most of them feel like you're shorting him, that you should give him a raise. I don't think you can do that tonight, but maybe you can next year. Thank you.
Thank you. you'd be surprised, there are some people who are just totally against everything. Okay, and our last person, last but not least, certainly is Dr. Preston. I wish I had people talking about me like they've been talking about you for the last 15 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, council members. And I tell you, I really want to thank the people who came out to talk on my behalf. You know, every day I am honored and humbled by the work that I do and the work of the people that I work with. Mine is not the only tough job in this office. Everybody who works in this office are dealing with people's tragedy on every single day, and I really want to tell you how proud I am to be associated with that group. Having said that, I want you to know that I respect your time and I value your time, and so my remarks are going to be very, very short. You know, the question is not, am I doing the job adequately? And again, if people in the public have a question, they can go to the St. Tammany Coroner website, look at current news under accomplishments, and see the 4-page highlights of what we've done over the last couple of years that all of you are familiar with as well. The question is, what is the value of that work? What is the value of a physician doing work as a coroner? I recently was reviewing a grant associated with the Sexual Assault Forensic Examination Program for the Louisiana Commission on Law Enforcement, and there's a specific language in it that says if you hire a consultant, you pay them the reasonable and usual salary. If that consultant is a physician or a lawyer, that is $100 an hour. So I think that's a good objective idea of what a physician is worth from the Louisiana Commission on Law Enforcement. And as Mr. Belisario has already alluded to, you know, in real estate, you look at comps, comparable parishes, Caddo Parish, the coroner's of an emergency physician who doesn't practice medicine, his salary, $192. East Baton Rouge, emergency physician, doesn't have a side practice, he's $200. I think at the proposed $137, you're getting a doctor at a discount. And so I won't be giving you a coupon, I'll be relying on your great judgment. The only thing that I would mention regarding the amendment, while as a parish-wide elected official, I think it's somewhat disrespectful to the office. No other parish-wide elected official, not the district attorney, who's had sort of a storied history in that office, not the parish president, not the assessor, nobody else has this kind of amendment put on their work. Personally, thank you very much, because I think you are certainly going to deter anybody in the future from running for this job. So personally, I appreciate the amendment. And with that, I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. I'll bring it to the council. Yes, sir. Mr. Toledano.
You say you do have a motion and a second?
I have a motion and a second. Okay. Now it's up to us to talk. If you're going to say the same thing,
I'm going to say something different, Mr. Dean, by all means. And it's short.
By all means.
I promise you it's short. In my view, this is not so much a raise, because we hear that word talked about. To me, it's a realignment of Dr. Preston's salary consistent with his duties and responsibilities. And I give you this benefit of arithmetic. 52 weeks in a year, 40 hours in a week. That comes to 2,080 hours in a year. His salary at $137,280 equates only to $66 an hour. In my business, we've had a lot of interaction with with doctors throughout Louisiana and elsewhere. I know of no doctor, to my knowledge, that works for $66 an hour. So I think we're getting a professional at a bargain, and that arithmetic I think is important. We're not taking his salary into some hemisphere that no spaceship has traveled. We're really below what I think is market value. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Toledano. Mr. Tanner?
Yes. And I appreciate what everybody had to say about Dr. Preston, and I totally agree with him. I think he's doing a super job. I'm going to tell you the thing that's got me concerned is the fact that I think somebody brought up the word about comps and salaries and what have you of doctors and this type of stuff. 3 years ago, those same salaries and comps were there when we tried to pay the coroner. I made the motion to pay the coroner $150,000 at that time. Mr. Bender fought to keep the salary down to $80-something thousand a year. Now they want to give a 64% raise. That's not acceptable to the people whose district that I live in. They are on my case. If you give that man a 64% raise, and hey, I'm an educated person. I don't always agree with what they say, but I represent them, okay? The other thing is, somebody said, forget the past. Well, yeah, we should have forgot the past a long time ago. We should have forgot the past when we set Dr. Preston's salary 3 years ago. And now we're going to come up and, you know, Dr. Preston's going to be making over $180,000 just in this ordinance that we set up right here. In the next 10 years, he'll be over $180,000. Now, is the next coroner going to be that way? Is he going to start at 180? No, he'll start at 132 if he'll run, or 137, whatever it is. If he'll run for that, and like Dr. Preston said, who's going to run? You know, we had back then, 3 years ago when y'all were running, you know, y'all got up there and said things that you wish you hadn't have said, I'm sure, which is like, you don't have to pay me, I just want to do this job. Now all of a sudden you want to be paid, and I don't blame you for you wanting to be paid, but you put the council in a bind when you do those kind of things. And I wish Mr. Toledano would have been on the council when we were setting that first salary, because he would agree with me that, you know, a doctor should certainly be making a lot more. You think they're making $66 going to where you are now? He was making about $30 about what he's making right now. So, you know, they didn't look at it the right way then, and so for that reason, and you know, and I even tried to work up a schedule to get Dr. Preston to $150,000 a lot quicker than this system would, but it didn't seem like the rest of the council wanted to do it, so I didn't present it. Thank you. I will be voting no.
Okay, we have Michelle, then Chris, then Maureen, then Mike.
I think Mike was before me.
Michael, for you? Okay. Go ahead.
I just want to point out that this is there's only 2 offices in St. Tammany Parish that a particular degree is required, or that the law prefers. The DA, a lawyer, and the coroner. If a medical doctor qualifies, nobody else can qualify for the position. That's not something that this council determined, that's determined in state law. So I do believe that you have to take in consideration the education for this particular office, and I just want to make sure that that's brought to the attention of the public. With that being said, I would like to hear from our parish president if she has any comments on this, on any particular matter.
Mr. Chairman, if that's okay with you, and I do, I appreciate that, Michelle. We know we went through a difficult time with a former coroner, but we now have someone that is a caring, dedicated, takes his responsibility so seriously that I think we have to show him that we appreciate what he's doing for this parish in so many areas, but particularly mental health, which you know is so important to me. I have never been to a meeting, not one meeting, where mental health was the topic, that Dr. Preston wasn't there before me and stayed after I left. And I go to a lot of meetings every day. So I urge you to please consider the amount of time that Dr. Preston does put in. And I will say this at the risk of, I don't mean to offend, but I don't think we can punish Dr. Preston for our failure to doing what we should have done 3 years ago. I think he deserves this raise, and I hope that people will vote for it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prisoner.
Me.
Mr. Canulet,
That's right.
man of very
Doc,
few words.
You know, I'm not going to sit here and thank you. I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to thank your wife and your family and the employees of your office, because unfortunately I've had to use your office for several times. I can't thank y'all enough for the professionalism. And after doing this for, you know, fourth, fifth term. I lose track. It's getting a while. It'll be 5 terms, you know, when this one's over. My uncle, my first cousin, been in office for 20 years. I know what a stress it is on the family, so I do appreciate what they're going through. Now, that being said, I'm not gonna say anything good, because when I went to you as your patient, I never got a coupon. You even never offered a coupon. So,
Your insurance didn't approve it.
there we go. All right. So, a lot said, agree with a lot, so we're gonna go off a little different. And I heard something tonight. Who was it? Was it Tanner? You said at 10 years it'd be 180,000? Okay, that's good. That's what I also want to know. All right. When I look at this little sheet Don Henderson provided for us, now this is what we're paying other elected officials that have the same type of office and employees. Total assessor adjusted salary, 171,000. Sheriff, 159,000. Clerk of court, 186,000. We're gonna bring him in at 130. Now, it's gonna be well earned. 137. Now, I'm glad we brought that number up 10%, because if the council should be really concerned about something, and I'm not sure what the DA makes, is 10% on these salaries here in 10 years. Not the assessors. I'm sorry, not the coroners. We should be really concerned with the assessor, the sheriff, and the clerk. In 10 years, if he's gonna go to 180, I'm not a mathematician, what are they gonna go to? So, it's time to move forward. The office has come full circle, in my personal opinion. It's time to reverse Act 181. You need to get out of our business, and we need to get out of yours. You run your office. You've done a good job. You've proved it. I'm gonna vote for you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Mike was first.
Mike, Mr. Lorino.
Dr. Preston, I've sat here and listened and thought and bounced from one side to the other numerous times. Made a tough vote last time, about a month ago, and I received a few emails from constituents, and I was able to explain why I made my vote. And every one of those people at that time disagreed with my vote. But 17 out of the 18, after I explained why I made a vote, understood. So I know it's uncommon, but as I said a little while ago, I like to say what I need to say. When I first started looking at this, 64% is absurd, especially when we give the parish employees a smaller number. And that has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with what the council did prior to me sitting in the chair. And Mr. Tanner, if I'd have been sitting in the chair, we wouldn't be discussing 132. We'd be discussing 150 or more back then. Because I believe the coroner should be paid $150,000. But the issue is going from A to Z overnight. That's the issue. That's the issue that I've heard from people in my district. Not many, but people in my district. And I can understand that. But then, as Councilman Canulette said, nobody wants to use the coroner's office. And I've had to do that a few times. And it's very important to have a professional in there and to have someone that cares. No one wants to have a mental health issue or even thinks about a mental health issue until they put the shoes on. Then they think about the mental health issue. And you're taking care of all of those things. So what I'm getting at is this. Last week, if you asked me if I was going to vote to go from A to Z overnight, the answer would have been no. And it was no up until Monday. I'm telling you things that I don't need to tell you. But I always think about a lot of things. It's real easy to come through those doors and have one opinion. very easy. But when you sit up here, you can't have just one opinion. I don't. I have numerous opinions, and I look at it from A to Z. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to vote for you on this ordinance. Even though I realize it's a gigantic number, even though I may be criticized for it, I'm not worried about that. What I am worried about is St. Tammany Parish having a fine man in the position that people in St. Tammany Parish hope they never have to use. And I believe that person is you, from what I've heard and what I've seen around this parish. So I just wanted to say I'm going to vote for it, and that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lorino. Maureen?
Yes. Dr. Preston, to your credit, whether people want to see you get a raise or not, they all are complimentary of your skills and the job you've done. I didn't speak to anyone that said, I think I have a problem with his job. For the people who I'm talking to who do not want to see that increase, I'm hearing things along the lines of he knew what the salary was when he ran, and he ran again. And then what Mr. Tanner alluded to. And of course, I also sit on ORPEC, and when you presented, you did in fact say, I'm not worried about the salary, I'm retired, I just want to serve my community. Some people do, because of that statement, feel that we should not approve this raise. Now, I will tell you, more people that I talked to did say they would like to see you get an increase. But the concern that they had was just such a large jump at one time. You don't typically see that anywhere else. Now, I will tell you, you know, we looked at these salary studies, and yes, East Baton Rouge makes $200,000, and they have 444,000 people and all. I understand you can't compare apples to oranges. It's hard. Some of the salaries we're looking at are part-time, some are full-time. Some people get fees. I mean, we're looking at 200,000, 188, other places 35 and 48. We have to do what's right for St. Tammany. I think that my constituents love having you in office, and the majority that I talk to are supporting a raise, as I am. I think you deserve it. The fly in the ointment is the increase at one time. Over and over and over again, I heard, I think this should be done more gradually. This is not what we see in the real world. So I do want to say that I'm really impressed that everybody believes that you're doing a great job. And like Mr. Tanner, I'm going to have to vote no on this because of the size of the increase at one time. Had this been presented in a manner where it'd be a step increase, I think many more people in my district, based on what I see, would have supported it. But again, even those who said, hey, he knew what the job paid, even they are very complimentary about the job you're doing. And I want to tell you, I think you're doing a fabulous job also. But I do represent my district, and I do believe that I have to say no because of the size of the increase in one step as opposed to progressive steps.
Thank you.
Mr. Bender?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, I'm going to, I want to offer one short story about Dr. Preston. And I will tell you, it was something that I got put into, and I was absolutely, completely bewildered, okay? I got a phone call from a friend who didn't live in my council district, but it was at, my wife called me actually. I was out. It was during the week. It was about 11 o'clock at night. And I got a phone call saying, Jerry, this friend of ours believes that they will die tonight. And I said, wait, what? Okay, I'm heading there right now. And I'm not kidding you. This was completely bewildering for a person like me who has no background in mental health. And I knew this person forever. And I said, What is the problem? Jerry, I'm dying tonight. And I was told specifically by the person, this is what they were dying of. And I went to the doctor this week. I walked over to the side, asked the husband, what's going on? Didn't go to the doctor? Nope. Not dying? Nope. Didn't know what to do. Called Dr. Preston at midnight. And I will tell you, from that point forward, this person got to the hospital, to the emergency room. Dr. Preston's full-time psychiatric doctor was in there the next day. This was no special treatment given. This is one of Dr. Preston's constituents. And he talked to me 2 or 3 times that night while this person was at the hospital. That's the kind of person I've seen with Dr. Preston. Let me also just say, and I don't want to get into a debate about this, but and this is not aimed at anybody, no one, but I've always, this is just my personal opinion, I've always tried to not look back at what other colleagues or other councils did or didn't do. And I just want to respectfully say, we have 3 members of the council that had to vote on a future coroner's salary, not knowing who would be qualifying, who would be the winner, would there be a runoff. Those of us who were here remember this, okay? Those 3 people are no longer here. And in fairness to them, let me just say, the big concern was because of the abuse in the office by the previous coroner. When you're making $210 a year and you're not working a full day, the public was, you want to talk about up in arms? We all remember that, okay? So, that night, and by the way, in advance of that, one of those people who's no longer on our council now contacted me and said, Jerry, what do you think about 125? And Mr. Stefancic was not that person, but he remembers this, okay? And I said, hey, we need 8 votes. Whatever it is, we need 8 votes. That's just the logic of it. That night, we had 2 motions. The first motion came from Mr. Belisario, and that motion was $90,000. And that motion lost in a 7-7 tie. The next motion was $84,000, and that motion won 11-3. Part of the problem was we didn't have 8 members. It's not singling out anybody. We never had 8 members that were comfortable going even at 90, okay, not knowing, is this person gonna be part-time and how part-time? So it's nothing personal against Dr. Preston. We didn't even know at the time, okay. With that said, I agree with whoever said this before. There's only 2 positions in this parish that require, I believe, specific educational requirements. I think member of the American Bar Association and the AMA, and that's our coroner and the DA. I don't know what the DA makes. Somebody told me it's maybe $190 or whatever. I never looked into it. I think that's what the previous DA was making. If that's what the current DA is making, fine. He's got a Juris Doctor degree, and that gets closer to that $100 an hour. But this job requires a medical degree, and it requires being a member of the AMA. And I look at the 137 this way. From 210, for a previous coroner who, if we add up a day a week, that might turn into $500 an hour. This is a decrease from the previous coroner from 210 to 137 for a person who's proven that he works full-time. So I will be voting for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Mr. Stefanczyk?
Yeah, I hope to make mine short. I just had an
I hope you do, too.
opportunity to work with Dr. Preston after he was elected. He'll remember we had meetings with the DA and the judges and the sheriff's office and everybody, trying to figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to work the court systems. I think we did a lot of work on the court systems, and he has been working with the judges to get the family court, the drug court, trying to get a veterans court established, and all those kind of things, which have been truly beneficial in changing the workload for the judges. And the coroner is a big part of that. Also, you know, I've heard a lot of the testimonials tonight from many of the people that talked about the activities. What I also know is that you've provided a lot of innovations in this office since you've taken over, and you've reduced and provided enough cost savings, certainly to more than offset this raise that we're talking about, and even more than that, and probably we'll see more in the future. For those of my colleagues that sit up here, it's time we did something right for St. Tammany. I would tell you that I represent a district. Unfortunately, maybe I guess the only email that I got concerning the coroner's salary came from somebody in downtown Covington, and that's not my district. So unfortunately, I don't know which way you guys missed them down there, but
Stay out of that.
But I have not
Quit
gotten
stirring it
one
up.
phone call criticizing this salary. I've not gotten one email except the one from the lady in downtown Covington. And I would tell you this, I look at this not only as representing my district, but those of you that sit up here have to represent your district, but you also have to do what's right for St. Tammany. And if we approve this tonight, it'll be doing something right for St. Tammany, and I intend to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to respectfully call for the question.
Okay. Question's been called. I'd like to take my little 2 cents in if I could. I'm not going to hurry. I'm going to have 3 stories. They're all going to be short. I'm teasing. I don't. I personally want to apologize. I'm embarrassed having to ask you to come up here and ask us for a raise. We are kind of, and I can say that and not be speaking unfairly about any of my colleagues. We're kind of on uncharted waters, or in uncharted waters. We've never had this huge type of a scandal before. So everything that we did, the 150, the 94, the 85, all of that was in reaction to what we were going on and what we were going through. So I personally want to apologize to you having to stand here and justify, because you can't find anyone around here that says you don't deserve it. There are other reasons why council members are voting against it, and I respect that and I understand that. There was not a soul. I don't know if y'all noticed, I didn't receive any emails. Now maybe the Covington lady emailed Steve for some reason, but maybe she hit S instead of him. I don't know what it is, but I have not received any phone calls or emails against it. All I've heard is very positive things. So like I said, I want to apologize to you for having to do this. We didn't have anybody in this room speak against it. Everybody spoke for it. And we get a crowded house for a mobile home. I mean, we get people out here a lot, and there was not a soul out here against it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
So, and I am voting for it. So, all right. Vote with your lights, please.
Motion passes 11 yeas, 3 nays, no one absent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. We do have a long agenda. Okay. Item number 6, 5571, ordinance to amend the 2016 operating budget, amendment number 6. Motion by Mr. Tanner, second by Mr. Groby. Any discussion? Over your lights.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item number 7, ordinance to amend the 2015 operating budget, amendment number 15. Motion by Mr. Tanner, second by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item number 8, ordinance calendar number 5573, ordinance to establish a no parking zone on a portion of Kenzie Road, Ward 2, District 6. Motion by Mr. Tanner, second by Mr. Groby. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item 9, ordinance calendar number 5574, ordinance amending the Parish Code, Chapter 4, Animals, Fowl, and Reptiles, Article 5, Animal Control and Welfare, to amend and reenact Section 4-120 through 4-136.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Lorino asked me a question, and he was not sure of whether an alligator is a reptile, fowl, or an animal. Could you clarify that?
I think it's a reptile. I've never seen one fly.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Mr. Tanner, second by who? By Mr. Canulette. I'm sure you have. Okay, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, item number 10, ordinance calendar number 5575, ordinance to correct the road and drainage inventory to include MP Planche Road lateral and extension to Richard Avenue, Wards 3 and 9, Districts 3 and 14.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by who? Okay, Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Item number 11, ordinance calendar 5576, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 77.36 acres from CB1 to A4, Ward 3, District 2. Motion by Mr. Sharp, seconded by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? All right, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous with a verbal yes for Mr. Canulette and Mr. Belisario, no one absent.
Okay, 12th item, ordinance calendar number 5577, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 77.36 acres from CB1 to A4 and PUD, Ward 3, District 2. Motion by Mr. Sharp, seconded by Mr. Thompson. I have a card, Mr. Justin, is it Schmidt? Sir? Okay, all right. So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
With a verbal vote for Mr. Belisario, motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, item number 13, ordinance calendar number 5578, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify .791 acres, I guess, from NC5 to HC2, Ward 4, District 10. Ms. O'Brien,
I believe we have somebody in the audience who wants to speak.
do you want to make a motion or?
Well, I want to hear him first.
We got to make a motion.
No,
first.
so move.
Motion and second by, who did that? Mr. Belisario? Okay, Mr. Schmidt? How are you, sir?
Good afternoon, good evening. Justin Schmidt, 701 Voyager Street, Suite 4500 in New Orleans, representing the proposed owners, Christian Brothers Automotive. I'm here to answer any questions at this hour. If you're good, I'm good, and but I'm here and available.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Any further discussion? All right. Vote with your lights.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, 14th item, ordinance calendar number 5579, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 163.45 acres from A1A to A1A and PUD. That's Ward 1, District 3, actually. And I have a motion to approve by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? You good? Okay, vote with your lights, please.
Mr. Thompson, Mr. Lorino.
Yeah,
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item number 15, ordinance calendar number 5580, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 2.46 acres from A2 to A2 in mobile home overlay District 3. Motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Sharp. Any discussion? Okay, vote with your lights, please.
Mr. Belisario. Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Item 16, ordinance calendar number 5581, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 14,000 square feet from A4 to A4 in mobile home overlay Ward 3, District 2. Motion by Mr. Sharp, seconded by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Ordinance number 17, ordinance calendar number 5582, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.102 acres from NC1 and NC4 to NC4 and NC1, Ward 1, District 1. Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Lorino. Thank you all. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
All right. Item 18, ordinance calendar number 5583, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 0.7 acres from A4 to NC5, Ward 8, District 12.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Item 18 and the next item, item 19, are two pieces of property in my district next to each other. I'd like to ask Mr. Fontenot a quick question about both of them, if you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Sydney, in looking at the background information on this, it started out the people wanted highway commercial, which of course the zoning commission did a great job on it because that would have been very inappropriate. And they changed it to a neighborhood commercial. I noticed that in the staff recommendations on this piece and the other piece, because there was no appeal, you all were fine with neighborhood commercial as kind of a middle ground between the residential that it was and highway commercial. I just wanted to confirm that with you. It's okay.
Actually, I believe in the first case, 192, we recommended denial, but during the actually, in the staff comments, it did say we would not object to something in the NC level.
Right.
And these were two related cases, if I remember.
Yeah, the properties
And so
are
it would have
next
been the
to each other.
same
Yeah,
issue where
same thing.
the formal application, we make our recommendation for denial, but if we see an alternative, we'll make a comment in the staff comments.
And I thought that was good. Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, there was no appeal on this. I have received no phone calls against it. I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Bender, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, 19th item, ordinance calendar number 5584, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 17,764.98 square feet from A4 to NC5, Ward 8, District 12. Motion by Mr. Bender, God bless you, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
You can't verbally what you told me. Motion is unanimous, one absent.
I bet Lacy wish she could erase you.
Okay, ordinance calendar number 5586, ordinance to declare multiple tax adjudicated properties as surplus property and authorize the parish to proceed with the process for the advertising and sale of such adjudicated properties. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
I'm gonna try to do this with a straight face. Ordinance calendar number 5587, ordinance to amend the Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 15, offenses miscellaneous, to add a new Article 18, urination and defecation in public prohibited. Mr. Belisario happily said so moved. Anybody want a second? And Ms. O'Brien seconded. The people of Mandeville are happy. All right. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Bender. You want to discuss that?
Well, I would like to read to my colleagues, okay? Real pressure here, okay? This came during the meeting. I don't know who it is.
What?
Mr. Bender, please vote against this ridiculous public urination ordinance. Not your job to legislate morality, just more theft of liberty and government overreach. Try to solve a problem that doesn't exist.
Uh-huh.
But I'm going to vote yes.
Good. All right.
Oh, TJ said he sent it.
All right. Vote with your lights, please. Any further discussion? Good.
That was a good one, TJ.
Motion passes with 13 yeas and one abstention.
Okay. Let's see. Ordinance calendar number 5588, ordinance to amend and reenact Parish Code, Chapter 17, peddlers, to add a new Article 3, solicitors on public highways. Motion by Mr. Belisario, second by Mr. Stefanczyk. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5589, ordinance to relocate the polling location for precinct 418, 429 from Grace Disciples in Covington to the North Shore Pastoral Center of the Archdiocese of New Orleans, located in Covington. Motion by Mr. Belisario, second by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Mr. Toledano, Mr. Tanner.
Good job.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay. Ordinance calendar number 5590, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 14,577 square feet located south of Highway 36, west of Melissa Lane, being 19471 Highway 36, Covington, from NC4 to I-1, Ward 3, District 2. Motion by Mr. Sharp, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Okay, that's it for our ordinances for adoption. We're going on to appointments. First resolution to appoint or reappoint members, 6 members to the Board of Commissioners for St. Tammany Recreation District Number 4. All terms have expired. What we got? Mr. Grovey?
Yes, sir. Thank
Y'all
you.
hang on just a second.
Mr. Chairman, council members, originally there were 10 nominations, if you remember, and 2 of the nominees, Mr. Randy Kramer and Mr. Devon Palmer, withdraw from consideration. They asked us to withdraw from them. The committee that was proposed by Mr. Lorino, made up of myself, Mr. Toledano, and Mr. Smith, met with the remaining 8 candidates, and we feel that we voted
appropriately in supporting of 6 of the remaining 8, which we feel they express the best interest of moving our district forward. Those recommendations are Ms. Michelle Cusimano, Ms. Antoinette Wright, Ms. Jackie Snyder, Mr. Garen Narcisse, Mr. Anthony Thomas, Mr. Joe Juhas. We hope that the remaining council will support our decisions as we talk long and hard. In that last meeting of, considering this, I believe it was close to 3.5, 4 hours. We considered and we did everything, so I appreciate the support of the 6. Thank you.
All right.
Councilman Groby, could you please repeat those? Could you please repeat those names?
The names are Joseph Juhas, Anthony Thomas, Garen Narcisse, Jackie Snyder, Antoinette Wright, and Miss Michelle Cusimano.
Okay, so when you vote, you can hand it to Mr. Don. They'll count. We'll go on to the next one. Okay, has everybody voted? We're going to go on to the next. Are we ready? Okay, the second resolution to appoint or reappoint 4 members to the Board of Commissioners for St. Tammany Parish Fire Protection District 7. All terms have expired. Mr. Tanner. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Tanner. Do I have a second? By Mr. Loreno. Any discussion? Okay. Y'all understand what we're doing? Number 2? All right, vote with your lights, please. Has everybody voted?
Mr. Toledano,
Come on, y'all. We're going to be here all night.
motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Okay. Item number 3 under appointment, resolution to appoint or reappoint 4 members of the Board of Commissioners for St. Tammany Fire Protection District Number 6. All terms expired. Mr. Tanner. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by who? Who did that? Mr. Red. Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Vote your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Okay, we're going to go to award of bids. Bid item Parish Official Journal, July 1, 2016 to June 3rd, 2017. Lowest responsive bidder at $1.16 per column inch is the St. Tammany Parish Farmer.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stefancic, second by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have
Got any
some
questions?
discussion. I just wanted to make sure Mike realized that we voting on this.
All right.
May I make some comments?
No. Thank God for the St. Tammany Parish Farmer. A Covington Institute. Okay, vote with your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Okay, before we go off the floor, have you all Okay, we're going to continue going, y'all. I was just informed that we already had the floor that was open, so we'll continue on the off-the-floor agenda. The first item is, let's see, presentation of, okay, we already did that. Resolution to amend ordinance CS 15-3439 to make changes to the 2016 capital improvement budget and capital assets. Mr. Sharp. Motion by Mr. Sharp, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Vote your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, last item off the floor, resolution to vacate in part the moratorium within a defined unincorporated boundaries of Ward 3, District 5. Mr. Toledano.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your resolution includes two different pieces of property. Both of them, your staff has opined that are not within the area, the defined area insofar as having a flood hazard issue. One of those properties is simply a substitution of a home, and the other one is a to be built by the Frieshard family. Mr. Frieshard's in the military. They have a special needs child, Thomas of the Essence. The staff indicates that it's not within the flood hazard area, and therefore I'd move for the adoption of the resolution to vacate the moratorium on those two pieces of property.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Toledano and seconded by Mr. Lorino. Any discussion? Vote your lights, please.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Now I'm going to ask anybody, does anyone else have anything to bring off the floor? I'm looking all down here. Nobody? Did you have something? Okay. Okay. All right. Now let's go back to appointment, resolution to appoint members of the Board of Commissioners. What do you? Okay. Let's see. The people who got the votes are Ms. Cusimano, Mr. Hujas, Mr. Narcisse, Jackie Snyder, Anthony Thomas, and Antoinette Wright. So we want to make a motion? Motion by Mr. Groby, second by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Vote your lights. TJ said yes.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?